Hello guys, welcome to Soul Fiction. So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto inherited Brahma's creation authorities? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Awakening. Eiko. LD wind whispered through the ancient forest surrounding Konoha, carrying with it the first hints of autumn. Naruto Uzumaki crouched on a gnarled branch, his orange and black jacket almost luminous against the pre-dawn darkness. Below him, the forest floor remained still, undisturbed save for the occasional scurrying of nocturnal creatures returning to their homes before daybreak. Anything. Sakura's voice crackled through his earpiece. Naruto adjusted his position, scanning the shadowy terrain. Nothing yet. Are we sure this is the right location? Kakashi-sensei confirmed it himself, she replied. The informant was clear. The smugglers used this route to transport stolen artifacts from the land of rivers. 3 days of surveillance, and still nothing. Naruto suppressed a yawn, fighting the urge to stretch his cramped muscles. Standard mission protocol demanded minimal movement during stakeouts, but patience had never been his strongest virtue. Naruto. Sai's emotionless voice joined the conversation. Movement at your 2 o'clock, approximately 400 meters. Instantly alert, Naruto shifted his gaze. There, a flicker of movement between the trees. Then another. Shadowy figures moved with practiced stealth, barely disturbing the underbrush as they navigated the forest. I count 6, Naruto whispered. Heavily armed. 7, Kakashi corrected, his voice calm but focused. 1 trailing behind with what appears to be a large container. That's likely our target. Remember the mission parameters. We need to recover the artifacts intact. Engage only when I give the signal. Naruto nodded to himself, adrenaline beginning to course through his veins. After days of inaction, the prospect of combat sent a familiar thrill down his spine. He reached for his kunai pouch, fingers brushing against the cool metal of his weapons. Naruto. Kakashi's voice held a note of warning. No heroics. These aren't ordinary smugglers. Intelligence suggests they're former shinobi from various villages. Approach with caution. Yeah, Naruto muttered. I know the drill. The smugglers moved with practiced efficiency, maintaining perfect formation as they traversed the difficult terrain. Not amateurs. Then, Naruto watched as they approached a small clearing, the perfect spot for an ambush. Everyone in position, Kakashi ordered. On my mark. Naruto tensed, ready to spring into action. The smugglers entered the clearing, the morning light revealing weathered faces marked with the hardness that came from years of conflict. The last figure emerged from the treeline, ggling slightly under the weight of an ornate wooden chest adorned with unfamiliar symbols. Now, Naruto launched himself from the branch, hands forming a familiar seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen copies of himself materialized in midair, descending upon the startled smugglers like orange comets. Simultaneously, Sakura burst from her hiding place, the ground fracturing beneath her enhanced strength. Sai's ink beast slithered across the forest floor, while Kakashi appeared in a swirl of leaves, Sharingan exposed and glowing crimson in the dim light. The smugglers reacted with impressive speed, dropping into defensive positions. The leader, a tall woman with a jagged scar running across her face, barked commands in a language Naruto didn't recognize. The group responded instantly, 4-0. Them engaging Team 7 while 2 moved to protect the chest carrier. I've got the package, Naruto called, directing several of his clones toward the chest carrier while he engaged a burly smuggler wielding twin short swords. The man was good, better than good. His blades moved with blinding speed, dispelling 2 of Naruto's clones before they could land a hit. Naruto dodged a slash aimed at his throat, countering with a sweeping kick that the smuggler easily avoided. Around him, the clearing had erupted into chaos. Sakura traded blows with the scarred leader, the ground cracking with each missed strike. Sai's ink creatures grappled with a smuggler who manipulated what appeared to be living shadows, while Kakashi faced off against 2 opponents simultaneously, his movements almost too fast to follow. Naruto created more clones, using them as distractions while he formed a swirling ball of chakra in his palm. Rasengan. The smuggler's eyes widened as Naruto thrust the technique forward. At the last moment, the man crossed his blades in defense, channeling some kind of energy through the metal. The Rasengan collided with the swords, creating a shockwave that sent both combatants skidding backward. "These guys aren't just ex-shinobi," Naruto called out, regaining his footing. "They've got some weird chakra techniques." "Focus on the objective," Kakashi replied, ducking under a wall. Chair jutsu before countering with a lightning attack that illuminated the clearing. "Secure the artifacts," Naruto nodded, sending another wave of clones toward the chest carrier. The two guards intercepted them, but in doing so, created an opening. Naruto seized the opportunity, using a fallen log as a springboard to launch himself over the melee. The chest carrier looked up, panic evident in his eyes as Naruto descended upon him. In desperation, he dropped the chest and formed a rapid sequence of hand signs. "Don't let him." Kakashi's warning came too late. The smuggler slammed his palm against the chest. The ornate symbols carved into the wood flared with brilliant light, pulsing like a heartbeat. A high-pitched whine filled the air, accompanied by a wave of energy that rippled outward from the chest. Naruto, still airborne, found himself caught in the energy wave. It felt like being submerged in molten lead, burning, crushing, suffocating. His vision blurred, the world around him reduced to streaks of color and light. Distantly, he heard Sakura scream his name. Then, nothing. Naruto floated in an endless void, neither cold nor warm, neither light nor dark. Time had no meaning here. He might have been floating for seconds or centuries, he couldn't tell the difference. "Interesting," a voice said, seemingly coming from everywhere and nowhere. "I had not expected one such as you to find your way here." Naruto tried to speak, but found he had no mouth, no body at all in this strange place. Yet somehow, his thoughts projected outward. "Where am I? What happened?" "You were at the crossroads," the voice replied. "Neither in your world nor fully separated from it. As for what happened, that is a complex question with many answers, none of which would satisfy you completely." The void around Naruto shifted, colors swirling into existence. Gradually, a figure took shape before him, a being with 4 faces, each looking in a different direction, seated in a meditative posture. Though humanoid in general appearance, there was something fundamentally alien about the entity, as if it existed in more dimensions than Naruto could perceive. "Who? What are you?" Naruto managed to ask. All 4 faces smiled simultaneously. "I have been called many things across countless worlds and ages. In your realm, I am known as Brahma, the creator." The name stirred something in Naruto's memory, tales from distant lands that Jiraiya had shared during their travels. A deity from a pantheon far removed from the elemental nation's traditional beliefs. "Am I dead?" Naruto asked, fear ally beginning to penetrate the strange calm that had enveloped him. "Not quite," Brahma replied. "Though you balance on the edge of existence. The artifact you encountered was one of my minor works, a repository of creative essence. It was never meant to be opened by unprepared hands. The energy released has complicated things." The void around them rippled, and suddenly Naruto could see his body lying in the clearing. Surrounded by his teammates, Sakura knelt beside him, hands glowing with healing chakra as she worked frantically to stabilize him. Kakashi stood guard while Sai secured the smugglers, most of whom lay unconscious from the energy blast. "Your physical form suffers," Brahma observed. "The raw creative force is too much for a mortal vessel to contain. It tears at your essence, rewriting what you were at the most fundamental level." Panic surged through Naruto. "Send me back. My friends need me." "It is not so simple," all 4 faces frowned in unison. "You have been Infu, said with a fragment of my power, the authority of creation itself. To return you as you were would mean extracting that power, a process that would certainly destroy you. To return you with the power you controlled would risk far more than just your life." "Then what?" Naruto demanded, frustration building. "I can't just stay here while my friends are in danger." Brahma studied him with ancient eyes that seemed to see through all pretenses, all defenses. "You are unusual. Most mortals, when faced with divine power, think first of what they could gain. You think only of those you might lose." All 4 faces smiled again. Perhaps this was not mere chance, but destiny. The void shifted again, and Naruto found himself standing in what appeared to be an endless library, stretching in all directions beyond comprehension. Books, scrolls, and tablets in languages both familiar and utterly alien lined shelves that reached toward an infinite ceiling. My archives, Brahma explained, now appearing with just one face, elderly, wise, with eyes that contained galaxies. The accumulated knowledge of creation across all realms and times. I don't understand what this has to do with me, Naruto said. Discovering he now had a body again, though it felt strangely insubstantial, like mist given temporary form. Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous, Brahma replied. Power without compassion is destructive. I have watched you, Naruto Uzumaki, across the tapestry of possible futures. In most, you become a force for tremendous good in your world. Your heart remains pure despite the hardships you have endured. The deity reached out, placing a hand on Naruto's chest. The power now intertwined with your essence cannot be removed without destroying you. But it can be structured, given form and purpose. What are you saying? Naruto asked, though some part of him already understood. I am offering you my blessing, to become my avatar in your realm, a wielder of the creative force. Not with my full authority, for no mortal could bear such a burden, but with enough to shape the world around you according to the dictates of your heart. The implications were staggering. Naruto struggled to comprehend what was being offered. Why me? Why indeed? Brahma mused. Perhaps because you understand something many never learn, that true power lies not in what you can take, but in what you can give. Or perhaps simply because you were in the right place at the wrong time. The deity chuckled. Causality is more fluid than most realize. Before Naruto could respond, Brahma continued. But now such power comes with responsibility and risk. There are those who will sense this authority within you, who will covet it for themselves. And there are entities beyond your world who may talk. Notice of a mortal wielding divine essence. I never asked for this, Naruto said quietly. Few worthy of power ever do, Brahma replied. The choice, nevertheless, remains yours. Accept my blessing, and return to your world with the authority to create, to heal, to build. Or reject it, and I will do what I can to separate the power from your essence, though your survival is not guaranteed. Naruto thought of his friends fighting to save him, of his promise to protect those precious to him, of his dream to become Hokage and bring peace to a world too often torn by conflict. With such power, how much good could he do? If I accept, he said slowly, will I still be me? Or will I become something else? You will remain Naruto Uzumaki, Brahma assured him. The power will be yours to command, not the other way around. Though I warn you, divine authority has a way of changing perspectives. You will see the world differently than before. Naruto took a deep breath, decision crystallizing. I'll accept your blessing, not for power's sake, but because I can't protect anyone if I'm dead, and it sounds like those are my options. Brahma smiled, and for a moment, all four faces reappeared. Each wearing an identical expression of approval. A pragmatic choice, yet an honest one. The deity placed both hands on Naruto's shoulders. Then receive the authority of creation, my blessing upon your spirit. Golden light flowed from Brahma's hands, enveloping Naruto in radiance. It seeped into his skin, his bones, his very cells, rewriting reality at its most basic level. Knowledge into his mind. Not comprehensive understanding, but foundational concepts, like a seed containing the potential of a forest. Remember, Brahma's voice began to fade, creation is not merely making something from nothing. It is bringing forth what already exists in potential. Look beyond the apparent, see the possible, and make it real. The golden light intensified until it consumed everything, even Brahma's form dissolving into pure radiance. We shall meet again, Naruto Uzumaki, when you have learned to truly see. Pain. That was Naruto's first sensation as consciousness returned, a bone deep ache that pulsed with each heartbeat. He opened his eyes to find himself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. Not the forest clearing, then. Not the void with Brahma either. He's awake. Sakura's voice, tight with relief and lingering concern. Naruto turned his head slightly, wincing at the movement. Sakura leaned over him, medical chart in hand, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she hadn't slept in some time. Behind her, Kakashi stood by the window, his visible eye widening slightly as Naruto met his gaze. About time, Kakashi said, his casual tone belied by the tension in his shoulders. You've been unconscious for 3 days. 3 days. Naruto tried to sit up, only to have Sakura gently but firmly push him back down. Don't even think about it, she warned. Your chakra network experienced severe trauma. We almost lost you twice during transport back to Konoha. Memories flooded back. The smugglers, the chest, the explosion of energy. And after that, had his encounter with Brahma been real, or merely a hallucination born of injury and trauma? The smugglers, he asked. Captured, Kakashi replied, along with most of the artifacts. The chest that affected you was too dangerous to transport. A specialized Anbu unit was dispatched to secure it. Naruto nodded, then immediately regretted the movement as pain lanced through his skull. What happened to me, exactly? Sakura and Kakashi exchanged a glance that set alarm bells ringing in Naruto's mind. We're not entirely sure, Sakura admitted. Your chakra network shows signs of reconfiguration. Lady Tsunade has been consulting with experts from other villages, but no one's seen anything quite like this before. Reconfiguration, Naruto repeated. Your chakra signature has changed, Kakashi explained. It's still recognizably you, but with something else layered through it. Something none of our sensors can identify. So it hadn't been a dream. Naruto closed his eyes, turning his awareness inward. Jiraiya had taught him when learning to access the Nine Tails chakra. The familiar warm current of his own energy was there, as was the dark, powerful presence of the fox. But now there was something else. A golden thread woven through his chakra network, pulsing gently in time with his heartbeat. Naruto. Sakura's voice pulled him back to the present. Are you in pain? Your readings just spiked. I'm fine, he assured her, opening his eyes. Just trying to understand what's happening to me. Before Sakura could respond, the door opened, and Tsunade strode in, her expression a mixture of concern and professional interest. So you're finally awake. How do you feel? Like I got stomped on by all 9-tailed beasts, Naruto grimaced. But I'll live. Yes, you will, Tsunade agreed, acting the chart from Sakura and scanning it with practiced efficiency. Though by all medical understanding, you shouldn't. The energy surge from that artifact should have killed you instantly. Naruto hesitated, uncertain whether to share his experience with Brahma. Would they even believe him? I guess I'm just lucky, he said instead. Tsunade fixed him with a penetrating stare. Luck doesn't count for what we're seeing in your chakra network. Something fundamental has changed, Naruto. I need to know if you're aware of what that might be. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to him. Naruto swallowed, then decided that half-truths would only complicate matters. I met someone while I was unconscious, he began. Or something. He called himself Brahma. Kakashi straightened, his casual posture vanishing instantly. Brahma, the creator deity from the Eastern pantheons. Naruto nodded, relieved that at least Kakashi seemed to recognize the name. He said the chest contained something called creative essence, and that it had become bound to me. He offered me his blessing to control it, or else he'd try to remove it, which would probably kill me. And you accepted this blessing, Tsunade stated rather than asked. Her expression unreadable. I didn't see much choice, Naruto replied defensively. It was either that or die. Tsunade sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. I'm not blaming you, Naruto. I'm trying to understand what we're dealing with. Creative essence isn't a term found in any medical or chakra theory text I've ever encountered. It's not chakra, Naruto said with sudden certainty. The knowledge rising from somewhere deep within. It's older, more fundamental. Brahma called it the authority of creation. The room fell silent again, the cations of his words settling heavily on everyone present. Can you demonstrate this authority? Kakashi asked carefully. Naruto frowned, considering. I don't exactly know how it works yet. Brahma didn't exactly leave an instruction manual. Perhaps it's best not to experiment while you're still recovering, Sakura suggested, eyeing the medical equipment surrounding Naruto's bed with apprehension. Agreed, Tsunade said firmly. Whatever this power is, it can wait until we've run more tests and you've fully recovered. She made a notation on the chart. I'm ordering a complete quarantine. No visitors except medical staff and those already exposed. She glanced at Kakashi and Sakura. That means you too, plus Sai. No one else needs to know about this until we understand exactly what we're dealing with. Naruto wanted to protest. He felt fine, despite the pain, but the resolute expression on Tsunade's face told him argument would be futile. Besides, she wasn't wrong. If he truly had received some fragment of a creation deity's power, caution seemed appropriate. How long? He asked instead. A week, minimum, Tsunade replied. Longer if necessary. Consider it a mandatory vacation. Her expression softened slightly. Get some rest, Naruto. Real rest, not just lying here plotting your escape. Your body needs time to adjust to whatever changes it's undergone. With that, she departed, leaving Naruto alone with his teammates. Well, Kakashi said after a moment, his eye crinkling in what might have been a smile beneath his mask, you certainly have a talent for finding trouble in unexpected places. Despite everything, Naruto felt a smile tug at his lips. It's a gift. One among many, apparently, Kakashi replied dryly. I'll inform Sai of the situation. He's been quite concerned, in his own way. After Kakashi left, Sakura checked Naruto's vital signs once more, her movements professional but tinged with lingering worry. You should get some sleep too, Naruto told her. You look exhausted. Sakura paused, then sank into the chair beside his bed. I thought we were going to lose you, she admitted quietly. Your chakra network kept collapsing, then restructuring itself in patterns I've never seen before. Lady Tsunade had to invent new medical techniques on the spot just to stabilize you. I'm sorry I worried you, Naruto said, genuinely contrite. Sakura shook her head. Just be careful, Naruto. Whatever this power is, whatever you encountered, we're in uncharted territory. Even Lady Tsunade is uncertain how to proceed. I'll be careful, he promised. Anyway, I doubt I could do much in this condition even if I tried. Sakura nodded, seemingly satisfied with his response. I'll be back to check on you in a few hours. Try to sleep if you can. After she left, Naruto lay in the quiet hospital room, listening to the soft beep of monitoring equipment. Sleep seemed impossible with his mind racing, trying to process everything that had happened. The authority of creation. What did that even mean in practical terms? He raised his hand, examining it in the soft light filtering through the window blinds. It looked the same as always, calloused from training. A small scar on the knuckle from a mission gone wrong years ago. Yet according to Brahma, he now possessed power beyond normal human comprehension. On impulse, Naruto focused on his palm, imagining a small flame dancing above it. Nothing happened. He frowned, concentrating harder. Still nothing. Maybe it doesn't work that way, he muttered to himself. He closed his eyes, turning his awareness inward again. The golden thread of energy remained, pulsing steadily. Naruto reached for it mentally, the way he might reach for the Nine Tails chakra. The moment his consciousness touched the golden energy, a shock ran through his system. Not painful, but intensely stimulating, like plunging into ice-cold water. Knowledge unfurled in his mind, fragmentary, incomplete, but compelling. Crete. Ion wasn't about forcing reality to change, it was about perceiving the potential within reality and drawing it forth. Every object, every concept existed in a state of possibility before it existed in actuality. With this new understanding, Naruto opened his eyes and looked at his palm again. This time, instead of trying to force a flame into existence, he perceived the potential for fire that already existed, the heat of his body. The energy in the air, the concept of flame itself hovering just beyond the threshold of manifestation. He reached for that potential, gently drawing it forward into reality. A tiny flame appeared above his palm, no larger than a candle's, casting warm light across his face. Naruto stared at it in wonder. He hadn't used chakra, hadn't performed hand signs or executed a jutsu. He had simply created. The flame danced in response to his breathing, growing slightly when he inhaled, diminishing when he exhaled. It generated heat, but didn't burn his skin. Perfectly controlled, perfectly balanced. Wow, he whispered. The door opened suddenly, startling him. The flame vanished as his concentration broke. A nurse entered, carrying a tray of medication, her yes widening at the lingering scent of fire in the air. Is everything all right, Mr. Uzumaki? She asked, glancing around suspiciously. Fine, Naruto replied quickly. Just meditating. Chakra control exercises, you know. For recovery. The nurse didn't look entirely convinced but nodded anyway. Lady Tsunade left strict instructions for your care. These medications need to be taken now, and again in 6 hours. Naruto accepted the pills and water, swallowing them obediently. The nurse checked his vital signs, made a notation on his chart, and left, casting one more suspicious glance around the room before closing the door. Alone again, Naruto leaned back against his pillows, his mind racing. He had created fire from nothing, or rather, from the potential for fire that already existed. What else might he be capable of? The possibilities seemed endless, and frankly, a little terrifying. One thing was certain, his life had just become significantly more complicated. 5 days into his quarantine, Naruto was ready to climb the walls. The constant tests, the endless questions from medical staff, the restrictions on his movements, all of it grated on his naturally active temperament. Only bright spots were visits from his teammates and his secret experiments with his new abilities. Those experiments had yielded intriguing results. He could create simple objects, a flower, a kunai, a bowl of ramen, much to his delight, though anything complex required intense concentration and left him exhausted afterward. Living things were harder. He'd managed to create a butterfly, only to watch it dissolve back into golden light moments later. Maintaining creations required constant attention, a mental connection he couldn't yet sustain for long periods. Tsunade had forbidden him from demonstrating these abilities to anyone but herself, Kakashi, Sakura, and Sai, insisting that until they understood the full implications, secrecy was paramount. Naruto chafed at the restriction but recognized the wisdom in it. The power to create matter from thought would make him a target for every power-hungry individual in the shinobi world. On the morning of the 6th day, Naruto sat cross-legged on his hospital bed, focusing on his latest creation, a perfect miniature replica of Konoha, complete with tiny buildings and streets, hovering above his outstretched hands. Each structure was rendered in exquisite detail. From the Hokage monument to Ichiraku ramen. It was his most complex creation yet, requiring sustained concentration to maintain. A knock at the door broke his focus, and the miniature village dissolved into particles of golden light that quickly faded. Naruto sighed, calling out, "Come in." To his surprise, it wasn't Sakura or another medical ninja who entered, but a woman he'd never seen before. Tall and slender, with copper-colored skin and striking amber eyes, she moved with the fluid grace of a trained fighter. Her attire was unlike anything typical in Konoha, wing robes of deep blue embroidered with silver symbols that seemed to shift when viewed directly. "Naruto Uzumaki," she said, her voice carrying a musical accent he couldn't place. "At last we meet." Naruto tensed, instantly alert. No one outside his immediate circle was supposed to have access to his room. "Who are you? How did you get past the Anbu guards?" The woman smiled, revealing teeth. She seemed just slightly too sharp to be entirely human. "My name is Amara. As for the guards," she shrugged elegantly, "they see what I wish them to see. A simple illusion, nothing more." Naruto slid from the bed, positioning himself in a defensive stance despite his hospital gown. "That doesn't answer who you are or what you want." "I am a guardian," Amara replied, making no move to approach him. "One of several entrusted with monitoring divine artifacts in the mortal realm. The chest your team encountered was under my protection, or should have been, had it not been stolen." Naruto frowned, processing this information. "You're saying you're not human?" "Not entirely, no," Amara acknowledged. "Though close enough for most purposes. My lineage is complex. And you're here because of what happened to me," Naruto guessed. "Because of Brahma's blessing." Amara's eyes widened slightly. "You spoke with Lord Brahma himself." "Interesting. More than interesting. Unprecedented in recent ages." She studied him with newfound intensity. "Show me." "Show you what?" "The authority," she said impatiently. "Create something. Anything." Naruto hesitated, wary of revealing his abilities to this stranger. Yet something in her demeanor suggested she already knew more about his situation than he did himself. Deciding to start small, he held out his hand and focused on the potential for a simple flower, a lily, white and pristine. The air above his palm shimmered, golden light coalescing into the perfect blossom, floating gently above his skin. Amara's sharp intake of breath was audible in the quiet room. Remarkable, she murmured, approaching slowly to examine the flower. Not just essence manipulation, but true creation authority. The real thing. She looked up at Naruto, her expression a mixture of awe and concern. Do you understand what you've become? Not really, Naruto admitted, allowing the lily to dissolve back into light. Brahma wasn't big on explanations. Just said I had some fragment of his power now. Amara laughed, though the sound held little humor. A fragment of Brahma's power is like saying a hurricane is a bit of wind. You carry within you the spark of pre-Mary creation, the ability to manifest thought into reality without the constraints of natural law. It doesn't feel that powerful, Naruto said. Creating anything bigger than a bowl of ramen exhausts me. And living things fall apart almost immediately. Because you're untrained, Amara replied. Like a child given a brush and ink who can only make crude scribbles, not understanding they hold the tools to create masterpieces. She circled him slowly, her gaze analytical. The potential within you is vast. Frightening, even. Why are you here? Naruto asked again, growing impatient with her cryptic statements. Just to confirm what happened. Amara stopped her circling, her expression becoming grave. I'm here because your transformation has sent ripples through the fabric of reality. Others will have felt it, others who would covet such power for themselves. Some are already on the move. What others? Naruto demanded. You mean like other guardians? Some guardians, yes, Amara nodded. But also those we guard against. Entities and organizations that seek divine power for their own purposes. The chest you encountered wasn't stolen by ordinary smugglers, they were agents of a group called the Architects of Ascension, cultists who believe they can elevate humanity by harnessing divine essence. Naruto thought back to the smugglers' strange abilities, their unusual chakra techniques. They didn't seem like ordinary cultists. They're not, Amara confirmed. Many are former shinobi who've augmented themselves with fragments of divine artifacts. Dangerous, but ultimately just pawns in a larger game. She moved to the window, gazing out at Konoha with an expression Naruto couldn't interpret. War is coming, Naruto Uzumaki. Not the kind your world is familiar with, fought with jutsu and kunai. But a war of creation itself. And you, through circumstance or destiny, now stand at its center. I never asked for this, Naruto said, echoing his words to Brahma. Amara turned back to him, her amber eyes softening slightly. Few do, yet here we are. She approached him again, extending her hand. I can help you understand what you've become, teach you to control the authority you've been granted. In return, I ask your assistance in recovering other artifacts before they fall into the wrong hands. Naruto eyed her hand skeptically. How do I know I can trust you? Yo, you snuck past Anbu guards and claimed to be some kind of semi-divine guardian. That's not exactly reassuring. A smile quirked at the corner of Amara's mouth. Caution. Good. You'll need that in the days ahead. She lowered her hand. I don't ask for blind trust, Naruto Uzumaki. Only an opportunity to prove my intentions through actions. The choice, as always, remains yours. Before Naruto could respond, the door burst open. Tsunade stood in the entrance, flanked by two Anbu operatives, her expression thunderous. Step away from my patient, she commanded, chakra visibly gathering around her fists. Amara turned calmly, seemingly unperturbed by the hostile reception. Lady Tsunade, I presume. Your reputation precedes you, and you're trespassing in a secure medical facility, Tsunade replied coldly. Identify yourself immediately. Quote, Amara, the woman supplied with a slight bow. Guardian of the divine treasury and servant of the cosmic order. I'm here about the incident with the chest and its effects on Naruto Uzumaki. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. How did you bypass security? The same way I'll leave, if my presence is truly unwelcome, Amara replied. Though I strongly suggest you hear what I have to say first. The situation is more complex than you realize. For a long moment, tension crackled in the air as Tsunade assessed the mysterious woman. Finally, she signaled the Anbu to stand down. You have 5 minutes to convince me not to have you arrested. Amara inclined her head gracefully. More than sufficient, she gestured to Naruto. He has been blessed, or cursed, dependi. On one's perspective, with a fragment of Brahma's creation authority. The chest your team encountered was a repository of divine essence, stolen by agents of a cult seeking to harness such power for their own ends. The smugglers, Naruto interjected. She says they work for something called the Architects of Ascension. Tsunade frowned. I've never heard of such a group. You wouldn't have, Amara said. They operate beyond the normal boundaries of shinobi affairs, seeking power of a different sort entirely. But they're very real, and very dangerous, especially now that they know someone has successfully integrated with divine essence. And how would they know that? Tsunade asked sharply. Because such an event cannot be hidden, Amara replied. The merging of divine authority with a mortal vessel creates metaphysical disturbances that those with the right sensitivity can detect across vast distances. Like a beacon in the dark. Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. You're saying they can track me? Not precisely, Amara clarified. They know something significant occurred, and approximately where. They'll be investigating, gathering information. It's only a matter of time before they identify you as the source. Tsunade crossed her arms, skepticism evident in her posture. Assuming I believe any of this, what exactly are you proposing? Amara met Tsunade's gaze steadily. I propose to train Naruto in controlling his new abilities while helping protect him from those who would exploit them. In return, I ask for your cooperation in recovering divine artifacts before they can be misused. Tsunade turned to Naruto. And what do you think about all this? Naruto hesitated, considering. Everything in him wanted to dismiss Amara's claims as exaggeration or manipulation. Yet he couldn't deny the power now flowing through him, couldn't ignore the implications of what Brahma had told him. I think, he began slowly, that I need to understand what's happening to me. If she can help with that, it's worth hearing her out. Tsunade studied him for a long moment before sighing. Your 5 minutes are up, she told Amara. But I'm willing to extend our conversation. Not here, though. My office. 1 hour. Bring whatever proof you have of these claims. Amara bowed slightly. As you wish, Lady Hokage. With that, she turned and walked to the window, which opened of its own accord before her. Without another word, she stepped through and vanished. Not in a burst of smoke or swirl of leaves as a shinobi might, but simply ceased to be, as if she'd never existed at all. Tsunade stared at the spot where Amara had disappeared, her expression unreadable. Well, she said finally, it seems your situation just became even more complicated. The meeting in Tsunade's office included Naruto against medical advice, but at his insistence Kakashi, Shizune, and 2 senior Anbu commanders. Amara arrived precisely on time, materializing in the center of the room without warning or fanfare, causing one of the Anbu to draw a sword before Tsunade signaled him to stand down. Dramatic entrances aside, Tsunade said dryly, I believe you owe us some explanations. Mara inclined her head in acknowledgement. Where would you like me to begin? With who? Or what? You really are, Tsunade replied. And don't spare the details this time. Very well. Amara seated herself in the offered chair. As I told Naruto, I am a guardian of divine artifacts, objects of power created by or connected to entities your culture would classify as gods. My specific duty involves acting and protecting items associated with Brahma, the creator. And you yourself are, Kakashi prompted when she paused. A hybrid, Amara said simply. My mother was human, my father a lesser divine being in Brahma's service. Such unions were more common in ancient times, less so now. Tsunade leaned forward, her skepticism evident. You realize how this sounds to us. Like mythology come to life. Amara smiled faintly. I understand your skepticism. Your world has its own spiritual traditions, the Sage of 6 Paths, the tailed beasts, chakra itself. You accept these as reality because they've been demonstrated through observable phenomena. I offer the same standard of proof. From within her robes, she withdrew a small object wrapped in cloth. Carefully unwrapping it, she revealed a crystal sphere no larger than an apple, filled with swirling golden light identical to what appeared when Naruto created objects. This is a seed of inception, she explained, a concentrated form of creative essence. One of several artifacts I've been tasked with protecting. She placed the sphere on Tsunade's desk. Observe. Holding her hand over the sphere, Amara closed her eyes in concentration. The golden light within the crystal intensified, then emerged, flowing like liquid around her fingers. Under her guidance, the light reshaped itself into a perfect miniature tree, complete with tiny leaves that rustled in a non-existent breeze. Even Tsunade couldn't hide her astonishment. That's not genjutsu or any chakra technique I've ever seen. Because it isn't chakra at all, Amara confirmed, allowing the tree to dissolve back into light, which returned to the crystal sphere. Divine essence operates on different principles entirely. Chakra manipulates existing energy and matter. Creation essence brings forth new reality from pure potential. She nodded toward Naruto. What he now carries within him is infinitely more powerful than this demonstration, raw, unfiltered creation authority. Directly blessed by Brahma himself. All eyes turned to Naruto, who shifted uncomfortably under the sudden attention. I still don't understand why Brahma chose me, he said. I'm not anyone special. Amara's expression softened slightly. Aren't you? Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, child of prophecy, bearer of an indomitable will that has overcome every obstacle placed before you. Perhaps, Brahma saw in you what others have, a heart capable of wielding great power without being corrupted by it. Naruto flushed at the unexpected praise. Before he could respond, Kakashi interjected. You mentioned a group seeking these artifacts, the Architects of Ascension. What exactly is their goal? Amara's expression darkened. They believe humanity can transcend its current limitations through acquisition and integration of divine power. In itself, not an ignoble goal, but their methods are ruthless and their understanding incomplete. They don't comprehend that divine essence must be received as a blessing, not taken by force. Quote, like what happened with Naruto, Tsunade observed. Precisely, Amara nodded. The chest was designed to store creative essence, not transfer it. Opening it should have killed him instantly. That he survived to receive Brahma's blessing is nothing short of miraculous. So these architects will come for Naruto, Kakashi said, his visible eye narrowing. To study him, or to try to extract this power. Eventually, yes, Amara confirmed. Though they're likely unaware of his specific identity yet. They know only that someone in this region has successfully integrated with divine essence. Tsunade steepled her fingers, her expression thoughtful. And your proposal is to train Naruto while helping us recover other artifacts before this group can obtain them. Yes, it serves both our interests, Amara replied. Naruto gains control over abilities that could otherwise prove dangerous to himself and others. You gain an ally with knowledge of threats beyond your normal experience. And I fulfill my duty to protect divine artifacts and those connected to them. Tsunade turned to Naruto. This ultimately affects you most directly. What are your thoughts? Naruto had been quiet throughout most of the exchange, processing the implications of everything being discussed. Now, all eyes turned to him expectantly. I need to learn to control this power, he said finally. That much is clear, and if people are coming after me because of it, I'd rather be prepared than hiding. He looked directly at Amara. But I won't abandon my duties as a shinobi Konoha are my responsibilities to my friends. Whatever training you offer has to work around that. Amara studied him for a moment, then nodded. Acceptable. I would not ask you to forsake your existing bonds. They may well prove crucial in the challenges ahead. Tsunade sighed, coming to a decision. Very well. Naruto will be released from medical supervision, effective immediately. Kakashi, you'll oversee this training arrangement. I want daily reports on progress and any new developments. She fixed Amara with a stern gaze. Understand this. Naruto is a shinobi of Konoha, under my protection. If I determine at any point that your influence is detrimental to his well-being, this arrangement ends. Immediately. Understood. Lady Hokage, Amara replied with a respectful inclination of her head. I assure you, our interests align in this matter. We'll see, Tsunade said, not entirely convinced. Naruto, you're to remain within the village boundaries unless specifically authorized for missions. No demonstrations of these new abilities in public. As far as anyone outside this room is concerned, you're still recovering from chakra exhaustion resulting from the mission. Naruto nodded, though the restrictions chafed. What about my teammates? Sakura and Sai already know something's going on. They can be briefed on a need-to-know basis, Tsunade conceded. But no one else for now. The fewer people who know about this, the better our chances of keeping it contained until we understand the full implications. With the meeting concluded, Naruto found himself walking through Konoha alongside Amara and Kakashi. Heading toward his apartment, after days confined to the hospital, the fresh air and familiar sights of the village were invigorating. "So," he said, breaking the somewhat awkward silence, "when do we start this training?" "We already have," Amara replied. "Tell me, what do you see when you look around you?" Naruto frowned, confused by the question. "The village, people going about their day." "Look deeper," Amara instructed. "Beyond the physical, you have the eyes of a creator now, if you choose to use them." Naruto concentrated, trying to understand what she meant. At first, nothing changed. He saw the same streets, the same buildings, the same villagers he'd known all his life. Then, gradually, he became aware of something else underlying it all, a shimmering web of potential. Countless possibilities hovering just beyond the edge of manifestation. "I see." He struggled to find words for the perception. Everything as it is, but also everything it could be. Like, seeing the seed inside the fruit, the building in a pile of lumber, the statue inside the stone. Amara smiled, genuinely pleased. "Good, very good. That perception, the ability to see not just what is, but what could be, is the foundation of creation authority. All reality exists first as potential before it manifests as actuality. It's overwhelming," Naruto admitted as the new perception intensified. The entire village seemed to pulse with possibility, each person a nexus of countless potential futures, each object containing infinite variations of itself. "Close your eyes," Amara instructed gently. "Center yourself. The perception will adapt to your consciousness with time and practice. For now, it's enough to know it's there, accessible when needed." Naruto did as instructed, relieved when the overwhelming sensory input faded. When he opened his eyes again, the world had returned to normal, or what passed for normal now. "That was incredible," he said. "But also kind of terrifying." "As it should be," Amara replied. "The power to perceive and manipulate potential reality is not to be taken lightly. It requires balance, the wisdom to know when to create and when to simply observe." Kakashi, who had been silent during this exchange, finally spoke. "This ability to see potential, can it be applied tactically? In combat situations, for instance?" Amara glanced at him, a knowing smile playing at her lips. The shinobi perspective, always seeking the practical application. "Yes, it has combat applications. Perceiving an opponent's potential movements before they make them. Identifying weaknesses not yet apparent, even altering the potential outcomes of an engagement. But that's merely scratching the surface of what creation authority truly offers." They reached Naruto's apartment building. Pausing outside, Naruto realized he hadn't been home in over a week. His plants were probably dead, and who knew what state his refrigerator was in. "Rest tonight," Amara told him. "Your body and mind still adjust to the changes you've undergone. Tomorrow, we begin in earnest." "Where?" Naruto asked. "Tsunade said I can't leave the village, and I can't exactly practice creating things in the middle of Konoha without attracting attention. I've arranged for a suitable location," Kakashi said. "Training Ground 44, Naruto groaned. "The Forest of Death, seriously. It's isolated, secure, and already surrounded by barriers designed to contain unusual phenomena," Kakashi pointed out. "Seems appropriate for our purposes." "Indeed," Amara agreed. "The natural energy there will also provide ample raw material for your early exercises." She bowed slightly to both of them. "Until tomorrow." Then, like before, she simply vanished, not teleporting or using any recognizable jutsu, but ceasing to exist in that location as if she'd never been there at all. "That's going to take some getting used to," Naruto muttered. Kakashi's eye crinkled in what might have been amusement. "Says the young man who can apparently create matter from thought." His expression turned serious. "Naruto, I don't need to tell you to be careful with this power, whatever it is. Even Tsunade is out of her depth here, though she'd never admit it." "I know," Naruto said, sobering. "I didn't ask for this, but I have to learn to control it, right? And if these architect people are coming after me anyway, just remember who you are," Kakashi said quietly. "Power changes people, often in ways they don't anticipate. Don't lose sight of what matters. With that surprisingly philosophical advice, Kakashi departed in a swirl of leaves, leaving Naruto alone outside his apartment building. As he climbed the stairs to his door, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just veered onto a path he'd never anticipated, one that would test him in ways no amount of traditional shinobi training could prepare him for. Opening his apartment door, he was greeted by the familiar sight of his modest living space, and the unfamiliar sight of all his dead plants restored to perfect health, his normally cluttered surfaces clean and organized, and the unmistakable aroma of fresh ramen coming from his kitchen. On his table sat a steaming bowl, beside it a note written in elegant script. A small welcome home gift. Until tomorrow. Despite everything, Naruto found himself smiling. Whatever lay ahead, at least it promised to be interesting. The next morning dawned clear and cool, autumn firmly established in the crispness of the air. Naruto arrived at Training Ground 44, the infam House Forest of Death, to find Amara already waiting, seated in lotus position on a flat stone at the forest's edge, her eyes closed in meditation. As he approached, her eyes opened, fixing him with that unusual amber gaze. "You're early." "Good. Couldn't sleep," Naruto admitted. "Too many thoughts." Amara nodded in understanding. The burden of potential. Once you begin to perceive it, the mind struggles to find quietude. She rose gracefully to her feet. "That will be our first lesson, centering the creator's mind." She led him through the massive gates into the forest proper. Despite its ominous reputation, the Forest of Death was beautiful in its wild way, ancient trees reaching toward the sky, undergrowth teeming with life both mundane and monstrous. They walked in silence until reaching a small clearing beside a stream. Far enough from the perimeter that they wouldn't be casually observed. "Sit," Amara instructed, indicating a flat rock beside the water. Naruto complied, crossing his legs and resting his hands on his knees in the meditation posture Jiraiya had taught him years ago. "Creation authority flows from the center of your being," Amara began, circling him slowly. "Not from chakra points as your jutsu do, but from something more fundamental, what some traditions call the soul, others the essential self. To control this flow, you must first know its source intimately." He placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "Close your eyes. Turn your awareness inward, past the physical, past even your chakra network. Seek the golden thread we observed in the hospital." Naruto closed his eyes, focusing his attention as instructed. The familiar landscape of his inner world appeared, a vast space where his own chakra flowed like a river of blue light, intertwined with the darker, more turbulent energy of the Nine Tails. But now there was something else. The golden thread he'd noticed before, except it wasn't really a thread at all. It was more like a lattice, a delicate web of golden light extending throughout his being, connecting to both his own chakra and, interestingly, to the Nine Tails as well. "I see it," he said. "It's connected to everything. My chakra, the fox, everything." "Yes," Amara confirmed. "Creation essence is more fundamental than chakra. It underlies all energy, all matter. It is the potential from which reality manifests." Naruto frowned, his concentration deepening. "There's something strange. When the golden energy touches the Nine Tails chakra, it changes somehow. Becomes more, I don't know how to describe it, more substantial." He felt Amara's surprise through the slight tensing of her hand on his shoulder. "Fascinating. The divine essence is interacting with the tailed beast's energy in an unexpected way. This bears further investigation." She removed her hand, and Naruto heard her moving to sit facing him. "For now, focus on the golden lattice itself. Feel its flow, its rhythm. Unlike chakra, which responds primarily to will and intention, creation essence responds to imagination and belief. What you can conceive clearly, you can create." Naruto concentrated on the golden energy, trying to sense its properties as he would with chakra. It felt different. Where chakra was like a current, creation essence was more like potential itself, awaiting direction. "Now," Amara continued, while maintaining awareness of the essence within, "I want you to extend your perception outward. See the potential in the world around you, as you did briefly yesterday." Naruto tried, expanding his awareness beyond his body. At first, the sensation was overwhelming as before, the entire forest seemed to explode into a web of possibilities, each plant, animal, and even rock humming with potential alternate states. He almost broke his concentration. But Amara's calm voice guided him. Don't try to perceive everything at once. Start small. Focus on a single leaf, a single stone. See its current state and the potential states it could assume. Naruto directed his attention to a fallen leaf near his foot. In his enhanced perception, the leaf existed in multiple states simultaneously, fresh and green on the tree, yellow and falling, brown and decomposing on the forest floor, and finally as nutrients absorbed back into the soil. All these states existed as potentials, with the current brown state merely the one currently manifested. I see it, he said, voice filled with wonder. The leaf as it was, as it is, as it could be, all at once. Good, Amara approved. Now, reach out with the essence within you. Connect to the potential you wish to manifest. Naruto focused on the potential of the leaf when it was fresh and green. He reached for that possibility with the golden energy, drawing it forward from potential into actuality. To his amazement, the leaf shimmered briefly, then transformed, brown fading to vibrant green, brittleness giving way to supple flexibility, decay reversing into vitality. I did it, he exclaimed, opening his eyes to see the now fresh leaf at his feet. Amara smiled, a genuine expression of pleasure. Excellent. Most initiates require weeks to achieve even this simple transformation. Naruto picked up the leaf, examining it with both normal and enhanced perception. It was perfectly real, not an illusion or temporary construct, but an actual living leaf restored to its prime state. This is incredible, he said softly, but also kind of exhausting. Of course, Amara nodded. Creation requires energy, not chakra as you understand it, but energy nonetheless. Your capacity will grow with practice. But always remember that there is a cost to creation. The greater the deviation from current reality, the greater the cost. She stood, gesturing for him to do the same. Let's try something more challenging. Instead of transforming an existing object, we'll create something new. For the next several hours, Amara guided Naruto through progressively more complex exercises, creating simple objects from raw potential. Transforming one object into another, even briefly animating a small clay figure he'd created. Each success built his confidence, though each exercise also drained him more than he expected. By midday, Naruto was seated on the ground, back against a tree, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air. I feel like I've run from here to Suna and back, he admitted. Your stamina is remarkable, Amara observed, showing no signs of fatigue herself. Most would have collapsed after the third exercise. The 9 tails, Naruto explained. My recovery rate has always been accelerated because of him. Quote, Amara nodded thoughtfully. The interaction between the tailed beast's energy and the creation essence may be beneficial in ways we don't yet fully understand. She seated herself across from him. Tell me, have you communicated with the 9 tails since receiving Brahma's blessing? Naruto shook his head. Not directly. I've been a bit busy trying not to die, then dealing with all this. He gestured vaguely around them. It might be worthwhile, Amara suggested. The tailed beasts are unique entities in your world, immensely powerful constructs of chakra with independent consciousness. How such a being perceives and interacts with divine essence could provide valuable insights. Naruto considered this. His relationship with the 9 tails had improved marginally over the years, moving from outright hostility to a wary coexistence. Still, he wasn't eager to engage the fox in conversation without good reason. Maybe later, he said. Right now, I am more concerned with learning enough to not accidentally create something dangerous when I sneeze. Amara's lips quirked in amusement. A valid concern. Control is indeed our primary objective. She rose smoothly to her feet. Rest for now. When you've recovered some energy, we'll continue with practical applications. Practical applications. Naruto perked up, his fatigue momentarily forgotten. You mean like combat techniques? Among other things, Amara confirmed. Creation authority is versatile. Healing, construction, combat, exploration. All are possible with sufficient skill and imagination. As they rested, Kakashi arrived, moving through the forest with the silent efficiency that had earned him his reputation. How goes the training? He asked, his visible eye taking in Naruto's exhausted state. Better than expected, Amara replied. He has a natural aptitude for the work. Show me, Kakashi requested, addressing Naruto directly. Naruto glanced at Amara, who nodded encouragingly. Drawing on what remained of his energy, he focused on the space between his hands. Golden light gathered, coalescing into a perfect replica of a kunai, not just visually identical to a standard issue weapon, but functionally identical as well, down to the molecular structure. Kakashi took the kunai, examining it with an expert's eye. Remarkable, he said finally. And this isn't a transformation technique or illusion. It's real, Naruto confirmed. Made from nothing but potential, I guess. How long will it last? Kakashi asked, testing the edge with his thumb. That's the interesting part, Amara interjected. It's fully permanent. Once brought from potential into actuality, a creation remains unless deliberately uncreated or naturally destroyed. Kakashi twirled the kunai thoughtfully. The tactical implications are significant. No need to carry weapons or supplies if you can create them on demand. Assuming I have the energy, Naruto pointed out. Right now, making tea. Hat kunai felt like running up the Hokage monument. Multiple times. Your capacity will increase with practice, Amara assured him. And you'll learn to create more efficiently, reducing the energy cost. Kakashi slipped the kunai into his pouch. Lady Tsunade wants a progress report. Anything specific I should mention? Amara and Naruto exchanged glances. Tell her he's advancing rapidly, Amara said. Faster than anticipated, but also emphasize that we've only scratched the surface. Complete mastery will take time. After Kakashi departed, they resumed training. The afternoon session focused on practical applications as promised. Creating barriers, healing minor injuries. Naruto accidentally cut his hand to test this and even short-range teleportation by manipulating spatial potential. By sunset, Naruto was thoroughly drained but exhilarated. The sheer versatility of Creation Authority far exceeded what he'd initially imagined. It wasn't just about making objects appear, it was about perceiving and reshaping reality itself at a fundamental level. That's enough for today, Amara decided as twilight deepened. You need rest to integrate what you've learned. Same time tomorrow, Naruto asked, trying not to show just how exhausted he truly was. Amara nodded. Be prepared for more intensive work. Today was merely foundation building. As they walked back toward the forest entrance, Naruto's enhanced perception suddenly alerted him to an anomaly, a disturbance in the potential field surrounding them, like ripples in a pond. He stopped abruptly, turning toward the source. What is it? Amara asked, instantly alert. Something's wrong, Naruto said, focusing his perception. The potential, it's being disrupted somehow. About 200 meters that way. He pointed deeper into the forest. Amara's expression sharpened. You're perceiving a breach. Someone manipulating the fabric of reality without proper authority. This is exactly the kind of sensitivity I hoped you'd develop. She started in the direction he'd indicated. Come, this is an opportunity for practical experience. They moved swiftly through the darkening forest, Naruto following both his enhanced perception and his traditional shinobi senses. The disturbance grew stronger as they approached, like static in the normally smooth field of potential, jarring and discordant. They emerged into a small clearing to find a hooded figure kneeling before what appeared to be a small tear in the air itself, a vertical slit of absolute darkness that seemed to absorb the surrounding light. The figure was chanting in a language Naruto didn't recognize, hands manipulating some kind of crystalline object that glowed with sickly purple light. Architect, Amara whispered, her voice tight with anger. Using a co-erupted seed of inception to create a dimensional breach. The hooded figure sensed their presence, turning sharply. Beneath the hood, Naruto glimpsed a face half human, half something else, the skin on one side smooth and normal. The other covered in what appeared to be small, interlocking plates of some crystal-like material. Guardian, the figure hissed, voice distorted as if speaking through liquid. How predictable. And you've brought the new vessel. How convenient. Close the breach, Amara commanded, stepping forward. You cannot control what might come through. The figure laughed, a sound like breaking glass. That's precisely the point. Chaos creates opportunity. It turned its attention to Naruto. So you're the one who integrated with Brahma's essence. A child. How disappointing. Naruto bristled at the dismissal. This child. is about to kick your crystallized ass. He formed a shadow clone seal, but Amara caught his wrist. No, traditional jutsu could destabilize the breach. Use your new abilities. The architect seemed amused by their exchange. Yes, by all means, attempt to use powers you barely understand. It will make this all the more entertaining. With a fluid motion, the figure slammed the crystal into the ground before the breach. The tear widened instantly, the darkness spreading like spilled ink. From within came a sound. Not quite a roar, not quite a scream, but something between the two. Utterly alien and deeply wrong. What is that thing? Naruto demanded, instinctively backing away. A void collar, Amara replied grimly. They're using the corrupted seed to open a passage to the spaces between realities, the void where potential exists before manifestation. And that's bad, catastrophically so. Unfiltered void energy is corrosive to manifested reality. It doesn't just destroy, it unmakes. As if to illustrate her point, something began to emerge from the breach, a limb of sorts, though unlike any Naruto had ever seen. It seemed to be composed of negative space, defined not by what it was but by what it wasn't, its edges constantly shifting as if reality itself rejected its existence. The architect backed away, triumph evident even in their inhuman features. Behold, the harbinger of ascension. When it has cleared sufficient space, my brethren will follow. Amara moved with sudden, blinding speed, placing herself between the breach and Naruto. I'll contain the entity. You deal with the architect and the corrupted seed. It's the anchor point. Destroy it, and the breach will collapse. The void entity fully emerged now, a toe-earing amalgamation of angles and curves that shouldn't be possible, its form hurting the eyes to look upon directly. Where it touched the ground, the earth simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but reverted to pure potential. Amara raised her hands, golden light blazing from her palms to form a barrier between the entity and the rest of the clearing. The creature shrieked, pressing against the barrier, which visibly strained under the assault. Hurry, she called to Naruto. I cannot hold it indefinitely. The architect, seeing Naruto's attention turn their way, produced a weapon, a short staff, topped with what appeared to be the same crystal material that covered half their face. Come then, vessel, they taunted. Let us see what Brahma's chosen can do. Naruto assessed the situation rapidly. The corrupted seed was embedded in the ground, its purple light pulsing in sync with the widening breach. The architect stood between him and it, weapon at the ready. Behind them, Amara struggled to contain the void entity, her barrier flickering under its relentless assault. Traditional tactics wouldn't work here. No shadow clones, no Rasengan, nothing that might further destabilize the already precarious situation. He needed to rely on his new abilities, limited as his control might be. He closed his eyes briefly, centering himself as Amara had taught him, connecting to the golden lattice of creation essence within. When he opened his eyes again, he perceived not just the physical reality before him, but the web of potential underlying it. The architect charged, staff whirling with unnatural speed. Naruto didn't move. Instead, he reached out with his perception, identifying the potential path of the staff and subtly altering it. The weapon passed harmlessly through the space where he stood. Its trajectory shifted just enough to miss him entirely. The architect stumbled, thrown off balance by the unexpected miss. What? Naruto didn't give them time to recover. Focusing on the ground beneath the architect's feet, he perceived its potential to be less solid, more fluid. With a surge of golden energy, he manifested that potential. The earth beneath the architect suddenly behaved like quicksand, swallowing them to the knees. Impossible, the architect hissed, struggling to free themselves. No novice could manipulate potential with such precision. Naruto didn't waste breath responding. Instead, he dashed forward, vaulting over the immobilized architect toward the corrupted seed. Behind him, he heard the architect breaking free of the earthen trap, but he'd gained the seconds he needed. Reaching the seed, Naruto hesitated. Its energy felt wrong. Not just different from the golden creation essence he'd been working with, but fundamentally corrupted, like spoiled food or infected wounds. Touching it directly seemed unwise. Destroy it, Amara called, her voice strained as the barrier flickered dangerously. Naruto reached deep within himself, drawing on the golden lattice more strongly than he had all day. His perception expanded, allowing him to see the corrupted seed's true nature, once a vessel for pure creation essence, now twisted into a tool for unmaking. Its current state wasn't its only potential, however. With clarity born of desperation, Naruto reached out with both hands, golden light blazing from his palms. Instead of trying to destroy the seed, he sought to purify it, to manifest its potential to be what it once was, before corruption. The contact was agonizing, like plunging his hands into acid. The corrupted essence fought his efforts, the purple light flaring violently. Naruto gritted his teeth, pushing more of the golden energy into the seed, forcing it to remember its original purpose. Behind him, the architect screamed in rage, charging with staff raised. "You'll destroy everything." Naruto ignored them, focusing entirely on the seed. Sweat poured down his face as he wrestled with the corrupted essence, gradually, painfully forcing it to transform. The purple light began to change, hints of gold appearing within the sickly glow. The architect reached him, staff descending toward his head, only to be intercepted by a barrier of golden light that materialized around Naruto at the last moment. Naruto hadn't consciously created it, the creation essence itself seemed to be protecting him as he worked. With a final surge of effort, Naruto poured everything he had into the seed. The purple light vanished entirely, replaced by pure golden radiance. The breach began to contract immediately, the void entity shrieking as it was drawn back into the darkness. The architect howled in fury, abandoning their attack on Naruto to lunge for the now purified seed. "No, the breach, my ascension." Their fingers brushed the seed just as the breach collapsed completely, and in that moment, something unexpected happened. The purified essence reacted violently to the architect's corrupted form, a pulse of golden light exploding outward from the point of contact. When Naruto's vision cleared, the architect was gone, not destroyed, but simply, elsewhere. The purified seed remained, its golden light now gentle and steady. Amara approached slowly, her expression a mixture of astonishment and concern. "Are you all right?" Naruto nodded weakly, suddenly aware of how thoroughly drained he felt. Did I kill them?" "No," Amara assured him, kneeling to examine the seed. The purified essence rejected their corrupted form and expelled them, likely back to wherever they came from. "They're alive, though probably quite distressed." She carefully lifted the seed, cradling it reverently. "What you did, it shouldn't have been possible. Purifying a corrupted seed requires mastery that takes decades to achieve. Yet you managed it in your first confrontation." Naruto tried to stand, his legs wobbling beneath him. Didn't exactly have much choice. It was either figure it out or let that thing unmake the forest. Amara steadied him with a hand on his shoulder. "Nevertheless, it was extraordinary. You didn't just destroy the corruption, you restored the seed to its original purpose." She studied him with new intensity. Quote, "Brahma's blessing is more profound than I initially realized." Naruto would have responded, but darkness suddenly crowded the edges of his vision. The last of his strength deserted him, and he felt himself falling. Amara's concerned voice fading as consciousness slipped away. Naruto awoke to the familiar ceiling of his apartment, sunlight streaming through half-closed blinds. For a moment, he lay still, taking inventory of his body. The bone-deep exhaustion had receded, replaced by mere ordinary fatigue, like after a particularly strenuous training session. "Welcome back," a familiar voice said. Naruto turned his head to see Sakura seated beside his bed, medical chart in hand. Her expression was a mixture of professional concern and personal relief. "How long was I out?" he asked, his voice rough from disuse. "About 18 hours, Sakura replied, helping him sit up and offering a glass of water. "Amara brought you back after you collapsed in the forest of death." "Something about essence exhaustion, whatever that means." Naruto drank gratefully, memories of the previous day's events returning. There was an attack. Someone called an architect opened some kind of breach. There was a creature. He shuddered at the memory of the void entity, its impossible geometry and reality unmaking touch. "Kakashi-sensei gave us a briefing," Sakura said. "Well, me and Sai, at least. Lady Tsunade is keeping this circle very small." She set the glass aside, her expression turning serious. "Naruto, what exactly is happening to you? And don't give me the simplified version. I'm your teammate, and your friend." Naruto sighed, knowing he owed her the truth. As concisely as possible, He explained everything: Brahma's blessing, the creation authority, Amara's training, and the implications of what had happened in the forest. Sakura listened without interruption, her analytical mind visibly processing each new piece of information. When he finished, she was silent for several moments. "So," she said finally, "you've essentially been granted divine powers of creation, which has made you a target for a cult that wants to ascend to godhood, and now you're being trained by a half-divine guardian while trying not to accidentally unmake reality. Did I miss anything?" Naruto couldn't help but laugh at her deadpan summary. "That about covers it. Only you, Naruto." Sakura shook her head, a reluctant smile forming. "Only you could go on a routine mission and come back with the power of a god." "Not a god," he corrected quickly. "Just a fragment of one's power. And I'm still figuring out how to use it without exhausting myself." "Well, your vitals are surprisingly good, considering," Sakura said, returning to her medical persona. "Your chakra network has stabilized around this new essence. I suppose we should call it. No signs of rejection or deterioration." She made a notation on his chart. "Physically, you're cleared for normal activity, though Lady Tsunade wants you to take it easy for the next few days." A knock at the door interrupted them. Sakura opened it to reveal Sai, his perpetually blank expression containing a hint of what might have been concern. "I heard our teammate had awakened," he said, entering the apartment. "I brought sustenance, as social convention dictates when visiting the infirm." He held up a bag that, based on the aroma, contained takeout from Ichiraku ramen. Naruto's stomach growled loudly in response. "Sai, you're officially my favorite person right now." As they ate, Sai observed Naruto with his artist's eye. "You appear different," he said abruptly. "Not physically, but somehow." Naruto paused mid-slurp. "Different how?" Sai tilted his head, considering. "If I were to paint you now, I would use different pigments. There is a luminosity to you that wasn't present before. As if you're slightly more real than your surroundings." He frowned, clearly frustrated by his inability to articulate the perception precisely. "It's quite puzzling." "Sai might be perceiving your altered essence," Sakura suggested. "He's always been unusually sensitive to subtle details." "That would make sense," Naruto agreed. Amara said hat people with certain sensitivities might notice changes in me, even if they don't understand what they're seeing. Sai nodded, satisfied with this explanation. "Will this new development affect our team dynamics? Should I prepare alternate strategies for future missions?" The question was so pragmatically Sai that Naruto had to smile. "Maybe. I'm still learning what I can do, and there are apparently restrictions on using these abilities openly." "Understandable," Sai said. "Power often requires discretion. The root organization." "We know," Sakura interrupted gently, well aware of Sai's tendency to reference his troubled past with the now disbanded Black Ops division. "This is different, though. From what Naruto has explained, this power could fundamentally change how the shinobi world operates if it became widely known. Like if everyone found out a Jinchuriki could suddenly create matter from nothing," Naruto added grimly. "The political implications alone would be a nightmare." Sai absorbed this with his usual impassive acceptance. "Then we will maintain operational security while supporting your adaptation to these new capabilities." "That is what teammates do, correct?" Despite the clinical phrasing, the sentiment behind Sai's words warmed Naruto. "Thanks, both of you. I don't know what I'd do without you guys having my back." After finishing their meal, Sakura prepared to leave for her hospital shift. At the door, she paused, turning back to Naruto with an expression he couldn't quite interpret. "When we were younger," she said, "you always talked about becoming Hokage. About being acknowledged by everyone. Now you've been given power beyond anything even a cage could claim, and you're concerned about using it responsibly." A soft smile curved her lips. "You've come a long way from that loud kid demanding everyone's attention." Before Naruto could respond to the unexpected observation, she was gone, leaving him with a strange mix of emotions. Sai departed shortly after, promising to keep their conversation confidential. Alone again, Naruto moved to his window, gazing out at Konoha in the late morning light. The village looked the same as always, people going about their business. Merchants selling their wares, shinobi moving across rooftops on various assignments. Yet with his enhanced perception, he could see the web of potential underlying it all. The infinite possibilities hovering just beyond manifestation. A gentle ripple in that web alerted him to Amara's arrival moments before she materialized in his living room. "Your recovery rate is remarkable," she observed without preamble. "Most would still be unconscious after expending so much essence." "The 9 tails," Naruto explained, turning from the window. "He's always accelerated my healing. Apparently that extends to essence exhaustion too." Amara nodded thoughtfully. "The interaction between the tailed beast's energy and the creation essence continues to intrigue me." "Have you communicated with the entity since our discussion?" Naruto shook his head. "Haven't had the chance. But after what happened yesterday, I'm thinking maybe I should." "I would encourage it," Amara agreed. Quote, "Understanding how these different energies interact could be crucial to your continued development." She approached, holding out a small object wrapped in silk. "This belongs to you now." Naruto accepted the package, carefully unwrapping it to reveal the purified seed of inception from the forest, the golden light within it pulsing gently in harmony with his own essence. "The seed?" he questioned. "But I thought you were its guardian." "I was," Amara confirmed. "But when you purified it, you established a connection that supersedes my authority. It responds to you now, recognizes you as its keeper." Naruto stared at the crystal sphere, feeling its resonance with the golden lattice within him. "What exactly does it do?" "The seeds of inception are storage vessels for pure creative essence," Amara explained. "They can be used to amplify your abilities, extend your range, or create effects that would otherwise be beyond your current capacity. Think of it as a focus for your authority." She demonstrated, guiding his hands to hold the seed properly. "Channel a small amount of essence into it, just enough to establish connection." Naruto complied, directing a thread of golden energy into the sphere. The response was immediate. The light within the seed intensified, and he felt his perception sharpen dramatically, extending far beyond his normal range. "Whoa," he breathed, overwhelmed by the sudden expansion of awareness. He could perceive potential across the entire village, could sense the subtle fluctuations in the fabric of reality caused by thousands of lives and choices. "Carefully," Amara cautioned. "The seed amplifies everything, perception, ability, but also the cost of using your authority. It's a tool for specific circumstances, not everyday use." Naruto nodded, read, "UCING the flow of essence until his perception returned to a manageable level. So I just keep it with me." "For now," Amara confirmed. "Eventually, you'll learn to store it in a pocket dimension for safekeeping. But that's a more advanced technique than you're currently ready for." She moved toward the window, gazing out at the village. "The events in the forest have accelerated our timeline. The architects now know definitively that someone in Konoha possesses creation authority. Their next move will likely be more direct." "You think they'll attack the village?" Naruto asked, alarmed. "Not overtly," Amara shook her head. "Their methods are more subtle: infiltration, corruption, subversion. They'll seek to identify you specifically, then either attempt to capture you or, failing that, to discredit or isolate you." "Great," Naruto muttered. "Just what I needed. Another shadowy organization after me." Amara turned, her expression softening slightly. "You've faced such threats before, have you not? The Akatsuki sought your tailed beast, yet you persevered." "This feels different," Naruto admitted. "The Akatsuki wanted the 9 tails, not me specifically. And I understood what they were after, what they could do. This creation authority, divine essence, potential manipulation, it's all so abstract." "Then we must make it concrete," Amara decided. "Your training needs to advance more rapidly than I had planned. You need not just theoretical understanding but practical mastery, enough to defend yourself when the architects make their move." She gestured to the seed still cradled in his hands. "That will help, but you'll need more than just power. You'll need allies who understand what you're facing." "I have my team," Naruto said firmly. "Kakashi-sensei, Sakura, Sai, they've stood by me through everything. And they will continue to do so, I've no doubt," Amara agreed. "But there are others who could offer unique perspectives. The tailed beast within you, for one. And perhaps," she hesitated, seemingly reconsidering her words, "we'll discuss other possibilities as they become relevant." Before Naruto could press for clarification, another knock came at his door. This time, It was Kakashi. His casual demeanor belied by the tension in his visible eye. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, nodding to Amara, "but Lady Tsunade has called an emergency meeting. Both of you are requested immediately." "What's happened?" Naruto asked, already moving to change into his standard gear. "Intelligence reports," Kakashi replied grimly. 3 shinobi from different villages have gone missing in the past week. All of them sensors or chakra specialists. And this morning, a team from the barrier corps found evidence of intrusion along the village perimeter, traces of energy they couldn't identify. "Essence manipulation," Amara said, her expression darkening. "The architects are moving faster than anticipated." "Then we'd better not keep Grandma Tsunade waiting," Naruto said, securing the seed of inception in a pouch at his waist. "If they're coming for me, we need to be ready." The meeting in Tsunade's office included a select few: Tsunade herself, Shizune, Kakashi, Naruto, Amara, and surprisingly, Ibiki Morino, head of Konoha's torture and interrogation force. The atmosphere was tense, with Ibiki eyeing Amara with undisguised suspicion. 3 missing chakra specialists, all vanishing without signs of struggle, Tsunade summarized, spreading intelligence reports across her desk. 1 from sand, 1 from mist, 1 from cloud. All disappeared while on solo missions near their respective villages. And now evidence of infiltration here, Kakashi added. The timing is unlikely to be coincidental. It's not, Amara confirmed. The architects are gathering information, seeking to confirm Naruto's identity before making their move. The kidnapped specialists were likely taken to help them track the divine essence. Ibiki frowned. You seem very certain of the architects' methods for someone who claims to be working against them. I've opposed their organization for centuries, Amara replied evenly. One develops a certain familiarity with an enemy's tactics over such time. Tsunade intervened before Ibiki could pursue his suspicions further. The immediate question is how to respond. If these architects are indeed targeting Naruto, we need a strategy to protect both him and the village. Quote, I don't need protection, Naruto objected. I should be focusing on mastering these new abilities so I can defend myself. While continuing your training is essential, Kakashi said. We can't ignore the broader implications. If the architects are willing to kidnap shinobi from major villages, they're either extremely confident or extremely desperate. Either way, that makes them dangerous. More than you know, Amara said grimly. The incident in the Forest of Death was just a taste of what they're capable of. The void entity that emerged from the BR. Each was a minor manifestation. There are far worse things they could potentially call forth if given the opportunity. Tsunade leaned forward, her expression grave. Then what do you suggest? We can't simply wait for them to make their move. We don't, Amara replied. We act first. The architects communicate through a network of resonance points, locations where the barrier between dimensions is naturally thinner. I can identify these points, and with Naruto's help, potentially intercept their communications. Spy on them, essentially, Ibiki summarized, his interest visibly piqued despite his suspicion. Precisely. If we can determine which of their cells is operating in this region, we can take preemptive action. Tsunade considered this, then nodded decisively. Very well, Kakashi, you'll coordinate this operation. Take whatever resources you need, but keep the circle small. As far as the general village population is concerned, we're investigating potential border incursions, nothing more. She turned to Naruto. As for you, continue your training, but do not leave the village without explicit authorization. If these architects are indeed targeting you specifically, we can't risk you falling into their hands. Naruto wanted to protest the restrictions, but the logic was sound. Until he fully mastered his new abilities, venturing outside Konoha's protective barriers would expose him to unnecessary risk. Fine, he agreed reluctantly, but I want to be involved in the investigation. If they're coming for me, I deserve to know what we're finding out about them. Agreed, Tsunade said. Kakashi will keep you informed of any developments. In the meantime, I've arranged for additional Anbu surveillance around your apartment and training areas. The meeting concluded with assignments distributed and a timeline established. As they left the Hokage Tower, Naruto found himself walking alongside Amara, Kakashi having departed to begin organizing the investigation. There's something you didn't mention in there, Naruto observed, keeping his voice low. Something about these architects you're holding back. Amara glanced at him, a hint of surprise in her amber eyes. Your perceptiveness grows sharper. Yes, there is more to the situation than I've shared publicly. I think I deserve to know everything if these people are after me, Naruto pressed. Amara was silent, for several moments as they walked through Konoha's streets. Finally, she sighed. The architects of Ascension were not always as they are now. Their organization began with noble intentions, seeking to elevate humanity, to help it evolve beyond its limitations. Their founder was someone I knew well, someone I respected. What changed them? Naruto asked, sensing the personal history beneath her words. Impatience, Amara replied, the desire for shortcuts to power, and perhaps my own failure to guide them properly. She looked at him directly. The current leader of the architects was once my student, many centuries ago. His name is Kirin, and he possesses a fragment of divine authority himself, not creation, but dissolution. Naruto absorbed this revelation with growing concern. So he can destroy things the way I can create them. Not exactly. Dissolution isn't mere destruction. It's the reversal of creation, the return of manifested reality to pure potential. In the natural order, creation and dissolution exist in balance, each necessary for the other to function properly. But this Kirin guy is using it wrongly. Amara nodded grimly. He believes that by accelerating dissolution, by unmaking what exists, he can create space for a new, higher, reality to manifest. He seeks to unmake portions of the world in order to rebuild them according to his vision of perfection. That's insane, Naruto said flatly. You can't just unmake reality and expect something better to replace it. Indeed, but Kirin's authority gives him the power to attempt it, and his charisma has drawn many followers to his cause. They believe that by acquiring and merging various divine authorities, creation, dissolution, transformation, and others, they can collectively ascend to godhood and reshape the world as they see fit. They had reached a small park, relatively deserted in the late afternoon. Amara guided them to a secluded bench, checking that no one was within earshot before continuing. Your emergence as a vessel of creation authority represents a unique opportunity for them. If they could capture you, study how you've integrated with the divine essence, or even extract it from you, they'd be one step closer to their goal, Naruto finished. But why didn't you tell Tsunade all this? Amara's expression turned somber. Because there's a personal element to this conflict that I'm not proud of. Kirin's fall from grace, his transformation from seeker of wisdom to would-be destroyer, occurred under my guidance. In many ways, his current path is a result of my failures as his mentor. Naruto considered this admission thoughtfully. So you feel responsible for him? Yes, Amara acknowledged, and I believe that responsibility is mine to bear. Your Hokage has enough cons. RNS without adding my personal history to them. I get that, Naruto said. But keeping secrets usually backfires. Trust me, I've seen it happen too many times. Amara studied him with those ancient, amber eyes. Perhaps you're right. Your perspective is refreshingly direct. She stood, smoothing her robes. I will consider revealing more to Lady Tsunade. But for now, we have more immediate concerns. The architects are moving, and we must be prepared when they strike. Which brings us back to my training, Naruto said, rising to stand beside her. If I'm going to face someone with dissolution authority, I need to know how to counter it. Yes, Amara agreed. And there's another aspect of your training we've yet to explore, one that may prove crucial in the coming conflict. It's time you learned not just to create objects, but to create effects, to reshape the rules of reality itself within a limited domain. Naruto's eyes widened at the implication. You mean like, changing how physics works? Making my own rules, within strict limitations? Yes, Amara confirmed. It's called domain authority. The ability to establish a field where creation essence defines the operational parameters of reality. It's one of the most advanced applications of creation authority, but also one of the most useful in direct confrontation. The prospect both excited and intimidated Naruto. Creating objects was one thing. Altering the fundamental rules of reality was something else entirely. When do we start? He asked. Now, Amara replied. We've lost the luxury of a gradual learning curve. The forest of death will serve our purposes again, Its natural isolation and existing barriers will help contain any unexpected effects. As they headed toward Training Ground 44, Naruto couldn't hate the feeling that events were accelerating beyond anyone's control, that the confrontation Amara had spoken of wasn't a distant possibility, but an imminent certainty. He patted the pouch containing the seed of inception, drawing comfort from its resonance with his own essence. Whatever came next, he wouldn't face it unprepared. The next several days passed in a blur of intensive training. Naruto's schedule became a grueling regimen of physical conditioning, essence manipulation practice, and increasingly complex creation exercises. Amara proved to be a demanding teacher, pushing him to his limits and then beyond, allowing only the minimum rest necessary for recovery. Domain authority, the ability to establish a field where he could temporarily alter the rules of reality, proved particularly challenging. The concept itself was straightforward enough: create a bounded space where creation essence defined how things worked. The execution, however, required a level of concentration and precision that tested even Naruto's legendary stamina. His first attempts produced wildly unpredictable results. He tried to create a domain where gravity was reduced, only to find himself suddenly floating 30 feet above the ground when the effect expanded beyond his intended boundaries. Another attempt to create a domain where water behaved like solid ground resulted in an unexpected reaction with the nearby stream, transforming it into a gelatinous mass that took hours to restore to normal. Domain authority requires absolute clarity of intent, Amara explained after a particularly frustrating session. You must visualize not just the effect you wish to create, but every consequence of that effect, every interaction with existing reality. Otherwise, the essence fills in the gaps according to its own nature, which may not align with your expectations. Despite the difficulties, Naruto made progress. By the 5th day, he could reliably establish a small domain, about 10 meters in diameter, with simple alterations to physical laws. He became particularly adept at manipulating temporal flow, creating fields where time moved slightly faster or slower than in the surrounding area. This is actually useful, he remarked after successfully maintaining a time-dilated domain for nearly an hour. In a fight, even a slight advantage in reaction time could make the difference. Indeed, Amara agreed, but remember that maintaining a domain drains essence continuously. In prolonged combat, you must weigh the advantages against the cost. Alongside the domain training, Naruto continued to refine his basic creation skills, focusing on speed and efficiency. What had once required intense concentration and significant energy expenditure gradually became more intuitive, requiring less effort for the same results. Throughout this intensive training period, Kakashi's investigation into the architects proceeded. Reports came in daily: suspected sightings, unusual energy signatures detected along the village perimeter, rumors of strangers asking questions about Konoha's Jinchuriki. The evidence painted a concerning picture. The architects were closing in, methodically eliminating possibilities until only Naruto remained as their likely target. On the 7th day of training, Naruto arrived at the Forest of Death to find not just Amara waiting for him, but Kakashi as well, his normally casual demeanor replaced by evident tension. What's happened? Naruto asked immediately, recognizing the signs of trouble. One of our intelligence operatives failed to report in last night, Kakashi explained without preamble. She was tracking suspected architect activity in a village about 20 miles from here. Her last communication mentioned observing individuals with unusual physical characteristics, partial crystalline transformations, similar to what you described seeing in the forest. They're establishing a base of operations, Amara said grimly. Preparing for a more direct approach. Lady Tsunade has authorized a reconnaissance mission, Kakashi continued. A small team to investigate the operative's last known location and, if possible, gather intelligence on the architect's activities. I'm going, Naruto said immediately, not phrasing it as a question. Kakashi nodded. That's the plan. You, me, Sakura, and Sai. Amara will accompany us in an advisory capacity. He fixed Naruto with a serious look. This is reconnaissance only, Naruto. We observe and gather information, then withdraw. No direct engagement unless absolutely necessary. I understand, Naruto assured him. But if these people are after me, I can't just hide in the village while others take risks on my behalf. A commendable attitude, Amara observed. Though also precisely what the AR Chitekts might be counting on, drawing you out of Konoha's protective barriers. Which is why we'll be proceeding with extreme caution, Kakashi emphasized. We leave at dusk. The cover of darkness will provide additional security. As Kakashi departed to finalize mission preparations, Amara turned to Naruto with an unusually serious expression. Before we embark on this mission, there's one more aspect of your training we must address: communication with the Nine Tails. Naruto had been expecting this. The interaction between the tailed beast's chakra and his new creation authority remained a mystery. One that could potentially prove crucial in the coming confrontation. I've been thinking about it, he admitted. But our relationship isn't exactly friendly. The Nine Tails tolerates me at best. Nevertheless, you share a body and now, indirectly, a connection to divine essence, Amara replied. Understanding how these energies interact could prove vital, particularly if you find yourself in a situation where you must draw on both simultaneously. Naruto nodded reluctantly. All right, what do I need to do? Find a comfortable position, Amara instructed. I'll guide you into a meditative state deep enough to facilitate direct communication. The rest will be up to you and the tailed beast. Naruto seated himself cross-legged on the forest floor, closing his eyes and steadying his breathing as Amara had taught him. He felt her hand rest lightly on his forehead, a gentle current of energy flowing from her touch into his mind, easing him into a deeper state of consciousness than he could achieve alone. The familiar mindscape materialized around him. A vast, flooded chamber with pipes running along the ceiling, the massive gate containing the Nine Tails looming before him. Behind the bars, in the shadows, two enormous red eyes opened, regarding him with their usual mixture of contempt and grudging acknowledgement. So, the Nine Tails rumbled, the whelp finally deigns to visit. After acquiring new power, no less, Naruto approached the gate, stopping at a respectful distance. You know about that. A snort of derision shook the chamber. How could I not? Your body has been flooded with an energy older than chakra itself. Even sealed away, I can sense the changes in you. The massive fox shifted, moving closer to the bars, its face emerging from shadow. To Naruto's surprise, the Nine Tails looked different. The orange-red fur now contained subtle highlights of gold, and the malevolent chakra that usually surrounded it was interwoven with threads of the golden essence that flowed through Naruto himself. You've changed too, Naruto observed. The creation essence, it's affecting you as well. Indeed, the Nine Tails acknowledged, seeming more intrigued than angered by this development. This creation essence, as you call it, resonates with my own nature in unexpected ways. Did you know, boy, what tailed beasts truly are? Naruto frowned, confused by the question. Your beings created from the 10 tails by the Sage of Six Paths. Living chakra constructs. Living chakra, the Nine Tails repeated, emphasizing the first word. Creation in its purest form. Conscious energy given shape and purpose. Is it any wonder this divine essence finds kinship with my nature? The implications dawned on Naruto slowly. You're saying there's a connection between tailed beasts and creation authority. That you're compatible with it somehow. More than compatible, the Nine Tails corrected. Resonant, sympathetic. This essence recognizes in me a kindred force, different in application but similar in fundamental nature. The massive fox studied Naruto with unexpected intensity. You've been granted power you barely comprehend, whelp. The authority to manifest thought into reality, to create from pure potential. Do you understand what that truly means? I'm learning, Naruto replied honestly. But I get the feeling you know more about it than you're letting on. A rumbling sound emerged from the Nine Tails, not quite a laugh, but something adjacent to amusement. Perhaps I do. I have existed for centuries, witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. Observed forces that your limited human perspective can barely grasp. The fox leaned closer to the bars, its enormous face mere feet from Naruto now. Tell me, boy, what do you intend to do with this power once you've mastered it? Create wealth for yourself. Reshape the world to your liking. Force peace upon nations too foolish to achieve it themselves. The question gave Naruto pause. In truth, He'd been so focused on learning to control his new abilities that he'd given little thought to their long-term implications. What would he do with the power to create reality from Thog? Once the immediate threat of the architects had passed. I don't know yet, he admitted finally. But whatever I do, it won't be about forcing my will on others or playing God. That's not who I am. No, the Nine Tails agreed, surprising Naruto with what almost sounded like approval. That has never been your way, has it? Even with my power at your disposal, you've sought to protect rather than dominate. To connect rather than control. The fox settled back slightly, its tail swishing contemplatively behind it. Perhaps that's why this essence chose you, or rather, why it accepted you when circumstances thrust you together. Creation without compassion becomes tyranny. Power without restraint becomes destruction. Naruto stared at the Nine Tails in astonishment. This philosophical musin, G was utterly unlike the creature he'd known, the embittered, hate-filled entity that had fought against their partnership at every turn. You've changed, he said again, more definitively this time. Quote, it's not just the physical appearance, you're different. More reflective. The essence affects more than just the vessel, the Nine Tails replied cryptically. It stirs memories long dormant, awakens aspects of nature long suppressed. The massive eyes narrowed slightly. But do not mistake contemplation for domestication, boy. I remain what I have always been, a force of nature bound against my will. I know, Naruto acknowledged. But maybe this is an opportunity for us both. If our energies are compatible, maybe we can work together more effectively than before. A partnership, you mean? The Nine Tails seemed to consider the notion, neither rejecting it outright nor embracing it. Perhaps. These architects you face. They tamper with forces beyond their comprehension, seek to unmake what should remain whole. Such imbalance threatens all existence, including my own. The fox leaned forward again, its expression intensifying. Listen carefully, Naruto Uzumaki. The golden Zen's you now carry can be amplified through my chakra, channeled in ways your limited human form could never achieve alone. If you are willing to truly collaborate, not simply drawing on my power when convenient, but acting in genuine concert, we could wield creation authority with far greater effect than either of us separately. The offer stunned Naruto. Never before had the Nine Tails voluntarily offered cooperation, let alone suggested a true partnership. What would that look like, exactly? He asked cautiously. A melding of energies, a synchronization of wills, for specific purposes and limited durations. The Nine Tails clarified, not a complete merger, but a coordinated application of our respective powers. You would maintain autonomy, as would I, but our efforts would align toward shared objectives. Like fighting the architects, Naruto suggested. Precisely. They seek to corrupt the natural order, to force ascension through shortcuts and theft. Such methods offend both creation and destruction in their proper forms. Naruto considered the proposal thoughtfully. The potential benefits were obvious, but so were the risks. Greater access to the Nine Tails' power had always come with the danger of being overwhelmed by its influence. Yet something told him this situation was different. The creation essence had changed the dynamic between them in fundamental ways. I'm willing to try, he decided finally. But we start small, test the waters before attempting anything major. Agreed, the Nine Tails said, surprising Naruto yet again with its reasonableness. When next you face danger, call upon me not as a last resort but as an ally from the beginning. We will see what our combined potential can achieve. The massive fox settled back into the shadows of its cage, its glowing eyes fixed on Naruto with new intensity. Now go, prepare for your mission. But remember this conversation when the time comes to act. The mindscape began to fade as Naruto's consciousness returned to the physical world. Just before the connection broke completely, he heard the Nine Tails' final words, so quiet he almost missed them. And Naruto, my name is Kurama. Naruto's eyes snapped open, finding Amara watching him with evident curiosity. You were in communion longer than expected, she observed. Was it productive? Naruto nodded slowly, still processing what had just occurred. The Nine Tails. Kurama. He told me his name. The significance of this wasn't lost on him. Names held power, and for the fox to voluntarily share his was unprecedented. Amara's eyebrows rose slightly. Indeed, that's Unexpected. The tailed beasts rarely share their true names, even with their Jinchuriki. He's changed, Naruto explained. The creation essence has affected him too. He says it resonates with his nature, that tailed beasts are living creation, conscious energy given form. Fascinating, Amara murmured. I hadn't considered the connection, but it makes perfect sense. The tailed beasts occupy a unique position in your world's metaphysical hierarchy, neither fully divine nor merely mortal, but something in between. Of course they would resonate with divine essence. Naruto stood, stretching muscles stiff from sitting motionless for so long. He offered to work with me, not just lending me power, but actually collaborating. Combining his chakra with the creation essence deliberately. And you agreed. When Naruto nodded, Amara continued, that could prove immensely beneficial, though not without risk. The combined energies might manifest in ways neither of you anticipate. We'll start small, Naruto assured her, but having Kurama as an ally rather than just a reluctant power source could make all the difference against the architects. Amara studied him for a moment, then nodded. Very well, we should incorporate this new development into your preparation for tonight's mission. She glanced at the sun's position. We have several hours before departure. Let's use them to practice controlled synchronization between your creation authority and the nine tails, Kurama's, chakra. The remainder of the day was spent in careful experimentation. Naruto discovered that by deliberately channeling small amounts of Kurama's chakra alongside the creation essence, he could achieve effects that neither energy could produce alone. Objects created while using both energies possessed unique properties, greater durability, responsiveness to his will even at a distance, and in some cases, limited sentience. His first successful experiment was a kunai infused with both energies. Unlike a normal weapon or even one created purely with divine essence, this kunai could change trajectory in mid-flight according to his mental commands, and return to his hand when called. The second test produced a shield that not only blocked physical attacks but actively absorbed and dispersed their energy. The applications are nearly limitless, Amara observed as Naruto demonstrated a third success, a small bird, created from combined energies, that could fly beyond his immediate vicinity and transmit visual information back to him. The tailed beast's chakra provides a persistent connection to your creations, allowing continued influence without maintaining direct concentration. By late afternoon, Naruto had developed a basic understanding of the synergy between the two energies. Though nowhere near mastery, he felt confident that in an emergency, he could call upon both simultaneously without losing control. As dusk approached, they met with the rest of the team at Konoha's main gate. Kakashi, Sakura, and Sai were already waiting, prepared for a covert reconnaissance mission with minimal equipment and dark clothing. Everyone clear on the parameters? Kakashi asked as they gathered. We move quickly and quietly to the target location, observe only, and extract at the first sign of detection. No heroics, no confrontation unless absolutely unavoidable. They all nodded their understanding. Tsunade herself appeared briefly to see them off, her expression conveying the seriousness with which she viewed the mission. Be careful, she instructed, essing the entire team but looking directly at Naruto. If these architects are half as dangerous as Amara suggests, direct engagement would be unwise. We'll be back before dawn, Kakashi assured her. With information, not injuries. As they departed, moving swiftly through the darkening forest surrounding Konoha, Naruto found himself hyper-aware of his surroundings. His enhanced perception, honed through days of intensive training, allowed him to sense the potential in everything they passed. Trees, rocks, animals, even the air itself. It was like having an additional sense, one that provided information beyond what eyes, ears, or even chakra detection could offer. Beside him, Amara moved with preternatural grace, making even less sound than the trained shinobi. Occasionally she would pause, head tilted slightly as if listening to something beyond normal hearing, before continuing their journey. You're tracking essence fluctuations, Naruto observed during one such pause. Sensing disturbances in the potential field. Amara nodded, pleased by his perception. Yes, the architects leave ripples when they manipulate essence. Like footprints in sand, visible to those who know what to look for. Do you sense any now? Kakashi asked, instantly alert. Nothing immediate, Amara assured him. But there have been disturbances in this area recently. We're on the right track. They continued through the night, maintaining a pace that balanced speed with stealth. The village where Konoha's intelligence operative had disappeared lay in a small valley between rolling hills, surrounded by farmland and orchards. As they approached from a ridgeline overlooking the settlement, Kakashi signaled for them to halt. "We'll observe from here first," he decided, surveying the village through a small telescope. The operative's last report mentioned activity centered around an old shrine at the village's northern edge. Naruto focused his enhanced perception toward the indicated location. At this distance, details were fuzzy, but he could sense a disturbance in the potential field, a wrongness, like a discordant note in an otherwise harmonious composition. "There's something there," he confirmed quietly. "Not natural. The potential is twisted somehow." Amara nodded grimly. Corruption of essence. The architect's signature. Kakashi considered their options. Sai, do an aerial reconnaissance. Stay high. Avoid detection. Sai nodded, quickly painting a bird on a small scroll. With a hand sign, the ink creature sprang to life, growing large enough to carry him. Moments later, he was airborne, a dark silhouette against the night sky. While they waited for Sai's return, Sakura approached Naruto, her expression a mixture of concern and professional focus. "How are you holding up?" she asked quietly. "This can't be easy, knowing these people are specifically after you." Naruto shrugged, trying to project more confidence than he felt. "Not the first time I've been a target. At least this time I understand why they want me." Still, Sakura pressed, "This is different from the Akatsuki. From what Kakashi-sensei has explained, these architects want to, what? Extract this creation power from you. Study how you integrated with it." "Something like that," Naruto confirmed. "Either way, it wouldn't end well for me." Sakura's expression hardened with determination. "Well, they'll have to go through me first. Through all of us." Before Naruto could respond, Sai returned, landing silently beside them. His normally impassive face showed hints of concern. "The Shrine-E has been converted into some kind of laboratory," he reported, quickly sketching what he'd observed. Multiple subjects in various stages of transformation, crystal growths similar to what Naruto described from his encounter in the forest. They appear to be experimenting with essence integration. He pointed to various parts of his detailed drawing. "Guards at these positions, what appears to be a containment cell here, and this structure in the center, some kind of amplification array, based on its configuration. They're trying to replicate what happened to me," Naruto realized. "Forcing divine essence into unwilling subjects. With predictably poor results," Amara added, studying Sai's drawing with evident disgust. "These crystalline transformations are rejection reactions, the essence corrupting the vessel rather than integrating properly." Kakashi studied the sketch thoughtfully. "Any sign of our missing operative?" Sai shook his head. "None visible from my vantage point. However, there are multiple sealed rooms I couldn't see into. We need closer observation," Kakashi decided. "Sai and I will approach from the east. Sakura, you cover the western approach in case we need extraction." "Naruto and Amara, we'll monitor from here," Amara interrupted firmly. "Naruto's presence too close to the shrine would be dangerous. The architects would sense his creation authority immediately." Kakashi nodded in acceptance. "Maintain position and be ready to support if needed. Standard communication protocols." As Kakashi and Sai departed to begin their closer reconnaissance, Naruto found himself struggling with conflicting impulses. The shinobi in him understood the tactical wisdom of staying back. He was, after all, the primary target. But another part of him, the part that had never been able to stand by while others took risks, chafed at the restriction. "They're experimenting on people," he said quietly to Amara. "Trying to force divine essence into them. We can't just observe and report." "I understand your concern," Amara replied, her voice equally low. "But rushing in without understanding the full situation would only endanger more lives, including your own." Yuto was about to respond when a sudden disturbance in the potential field sent a chill down his spine. It wasn't centered on the shrine, but much closer, directly behind them. "Amara," he began, but she was already moving, spinning to face the threat. Three figures materialized from the darkness, surrounding them in a loose triangle. Each bore the distinctive crystalline growths Naruto had come to associate with the architects, though in varying patterns and degrees. The one directly before them, a tall, slender individual whose entire left side had been transformed into a bluish crystal structure, stepped forward. "The vessel and the guardian," they said, voice distorted by their partial transformation. "How convenient." Sakura immediately dropped into a combat stance, but Amara held up a hand to stay her action. "How did you find us?" she demanded of the architects. The leader's partially crystalline face formed something approximating a smile. "Did you think you were the only ones capable of sensing essence disruptions? The moment he," a nod toward Naruto, "entered our operational range, every sensor in our organization felt it. Like a beacon in the dark." Naruto cursed inwardly. His very presence had compromised the mission, exactly as Amara had warned might happen. The shrine, he realized aloud. It was bait. "You knew Konoha would investigate." "Not bait, precisely," the leader corrected. "The work there is quite real. But we anticipated that eventually, it would draw attention from those seeking to protect you. And here you are, delivered right to us. If you think we're going quietly, you're even crazier than your crystal face suggests," Naruto retorted, subtly shifting his position to protect Sakura's flank. The leader sighed, the sound strangely musical through their crystalline vocal structures. "Always resistance. Always defiance. When will you understand that what we offer is evolution, not destruction? The essence you carry could elevate humanity beyond its current limitations, if properly shared. By forcing it into unwilling subjects." Amara's voice dripped with contempt. "By corrupting its nature with your crude methods. You've fallen far, Lysander." The leader, Lysander, tilted their head, crystal fragments catching the moonlight. "Amara, still clinging to outdated notions of cosmic order. The old ways have failed us. The divine abandoned this realm eons ago, leaving only fragments of their power behind. We merely seek to reclaim what was left for us. Left to protect, not to exploit," Amara countered. "The divine essence was never meant to be taken by force." While they spoke, Naruto reached out with his perception, assessing the other two architects. Both showed signs of extensive modification. One had crystalline growths forming a key ND of exoskeleton across their torso and arms, while the other's transformations were more subtle, limited to their hands and parts of their face. All three radiated corrupted essence, like a distort D version of the golden energy Naruto had learned to manipulate. "Enough talk," Lysander decided abruptly. "You will both accompany us to our primary facility. The vessel for study, the guardian for judgment. And if we refuse," Naruto challenged, though he already knew the answer. "Then we take you by force," Lysander replied simply. "Though that would be messier for all concerned." Naruto exchanged a quick glance with Sakura and Amara. They were outnumbered, and Kakashi and Sai were too far away to provide immediate assistance. Fighting might be inevitable, but they needed to alert the others first. Subtly, Naruto channeled a small amount of creation essence into his hand, forming a connection with the scout bird he'd created earlier. With a thought, he sent it airborne, directing it toward Kakashi's last known position. Sakura, noticing the movement, provided a momentary distraction. "These experiments of yours," she said, addressing Lysander. "How many have died in your attempts to force divine essence into incompatible hosts?" Lysander's attention shifted to her. "Death is an unfortunate but necessary step in evolution. Those who perish simply lack the capacity to transcend. Their sacrifice advances our understanding." "You mean they died screaming as their bodies rejected the corrupted essence you forced into them," Amara corrected coldly. "Just as you're being rejected now, Lysander. Look at yourself. The crystallization spreads with each manipulation. Soon there will be nothing human left of you." Anger flashed across Lysander's partially transformed face. "Temporary adaptations, nothing more. Once we perfect the integration process." "You'll what?" Naruto interrupted. "Force it on everyone. Create an army of crystal freaks like yourselves. That's not evolution. It's just another form of tyranny." The distraction had worked. His scout bird was away, carrying a simple message to Kakashi: ambush. 3 architects, North Ridge, need backup. Lysander's patience visibly thinned. "Enough. You've been offered the courtesy of voluntary compliance. That offer expires now. They made a sharp gesture to their companions. Take them. The two subordinate architects moved with inhuman speed, one lunging toward Sakura while the other circled toward Amara. Lysander remained focused on Naruto, raising crystalline hands that began to glow with sickly purple li. GHT, the corrupted version of creation essence. Let's see how well Brahma's blessing protects you, they said, and unleashed a wave of distorted potential that rippled through the air toward Naruto. Ime seemed to slow as Naruto's enhanced perception processed the incoming attack. This wasn't just energy, it was anti-creation, the corruption and reversal of manifested reality back into chaotic potential. If it hit him directly, the results would be unpredictable at best, catastrophic at worst. Instinctively, he reached for both the golden lattice of creation essence and the deeper, more turbulent energy of Kurama's chakra. The two powers responded immediately, flowing together with surprising harmony. Ready, Kit, Kurama's voice resonated in his mind. Ready, Naruto confirmed, and released their combined power. Golden red energy erupted around him, forming a protective shell that intercepted Lysander's attack. Where the two forces met, reality itself seemed to waver, like heat distortion on a summer day. Naruto felt the strain immediately, maintaining the shell required continuous output of both energies. Around him, battle had erupted. Sakura engaged her opponent with precise, chakra-enhanced strikes, her medical training giving her insight into the weaknesses of their partially crystallized anatomy. Amara moved like liquid lightning, her hands trailing golden light as she NTERED her attacker's corrupted essence with pure creation energy. Lysander's expression shifted from confidence to surprise as their attack failed to penetrate Naruto's defense. Fascinating, they said, studying the golden red energy shell. You've synchronized the tailed beast's chakra with the divine essence. An unexpected development. They adjusted their stance, gathering more corrupted essence. But ultimately futile. Your control is still rudimentary, your understanding incomplete. Mine has been refined through centuries of study. The next attack came not as a direct assault but as a subtle manipulation of the potential field around Naruto. The ground beneath his feet began to lose cohesion, not crumbling but unmaking, returning to a state of pure potential. Naruto leapt upward, avoiding the effect. But Lysander had anticipated this. A second wave of corrupted essence struck from above, forcing Naruto to twist midair to avoid direct contact. Even so, the edge of the effect brushed his left arm, sending immediate pain shooting through the limb as reality itself seemed to waver around it. Landing awkwardly, Naruto glanced at his arm to see the skin rippling, struggling to maintain its defined state against the corruption. With a surge of combined energy, he forced creation essence into the affected area, restoring proper manifestation. The effort cost him, however, leaving him momentarily vulnerable. Lysander pressed the advantage, closing the distance with unnatural speed. Crystal hands reached for Naruto's throat. Direct contact would be devastating, allowing the erupted essence to flow directly into his body. Domain. Kurama prompted urgently in his mind. Establish dominance over local reality. Understanding instantly, Naruto focused his combined energies inward, then explosively outward, establishing a creation domain in a 10-meter radius around himself. Within this space, he defined a single, simple rule: corruption could not propagate. The effect was immediate. Lysander's hands, centimeters from Naruto's throat, suddenly lost their purple glow. The architect's expression shifted to shock, then fury as they realized their essence manipulation had been neutralized within the domain. Impossible, they hissed. No novice could. Naruto didn't let them finish. With Lysander's primary advantage temporarily negated, he went on the offensive. Drawing on years of shinobi training, he delivered a precise strike to Lysander's sternum, channeling a burst of pure creation essence through the contact point. The effect was more dramatic than he'd anticipated. Where the golden energy met the crystalline transformation, cracks appeared, spreading rapidly across Lysander's torso. Light, pure, white light, began to shine through these cracks, as if something within the architect was breaking free. Lysander staggered backward, clutching at their chest in evident agony. "What have you done?" they gasped, their voice distorting further as the crystallization began to recede, revealing normal human flesh beneath. Purification. Amara called from where she had just dispatched her own opponent. He's purifying the corrupted essence, just as he did with the seed. Naruto advanced on the retreating Lysander, golden red energy swirling around his hands. Surrender, he offered. Let me help you. This corruption is killing you, can't you see that? For a moment, something like uncertainty flickered across Lysander's partially restored face. Then their expression hardened again. Never. The path to ascension requires sacrifice. With surprising speed for one so injured, Lysander produced a small crystal from within their robes, another corrupted seed of inception, pulsing with malevolent purple light. Before Naruto could react, they slammed it into the ground. If I cannot take you, no one will, they declared. The corrupted seed shattered on impact, releasing a shock wave of anti-creation energy that rippled outward. Naruto's domain held against it momentarily, then buckled under the sheer volume of corrupted essence. Reality itself seemed to groan as the wave passed, trees, rocks, even the air beginning to lose cohesion at the edges of manifestation. Naruto. Amara's voice cut through the chaos. The seed from the pouch. Use it now. Understanding instantly, Naruto retrieved the purified seed of inception he'd been carrying. Its golden light pulsed in harmony with his own essence, responding to his urgency. Following instinct more than training, he channeled both creation essence and Kurama's chakra into the seed, then threw sent it toward the expanding wave of corruption. The effect was like water meeting fire, a massive release of energy as the two opposing forces collided. Golden light exploded outward from the seed, taking and absorbing the purple corruption. For a moment, the entire hillside was illuminated as if by sunrise, every detail thrown into sharp relief. When the light faded, Lysander was gone, whether destroyed, transformed, or simply transported elsewhere, Naruto couldn't tell. The other two architects lay unconscious, their crystalline transformations significantly reduced, revealing more of their original human forms. Sakura approached cautiously, her medical training evident in the way she immediately checked the fallen architects for life signs. Alive, she confirmed, and their vital signs are actually stronger than before. Whatever you did seems to have begun reversing the corruption in them as well. Naruto nodded, suddenly aware of how completely drained he felt. The combined use of creation essence, Kurama's chakra, domain establishment, and finally the seed had depleted his reserves to near empty. Only years of endurance training kept him on his feet. That was reckless, Amara admonished, though there was a note of admiration beneath her criticism. Using the seed as a direct counter to corrupted essence could have had unpredictable results. Didn't have much choice, Naruto replied, his voice rough with exhaustion. It was that or let the corruption spread unchecked. Further discussion was interrupted by the arrival of Kakashi and Sai, moving at top speed in response to Naruto's message. We felt the energy release from the shrine, Kakashi said, taking in the scene with a tactical eye. The entire operation there is in chaos. Half their equipment failed when that wave passed through. Good timing. Naruto managed a weak smile. We could use some help with the cleanup. As Kakashi organized the secure transport of the unconscious architects and Sai created ink constructs to carry them. Amara drew Naruto aside. What you did tonight was remarkable, she said quietly. Purifying corrupted essence in an active confrontation, establishing a functional domain under pressure, and successfully synchronizing with the tailed beast's energy. Any one of these would be an achievement for one so new to creation authority. Together, they suggest you're advancing far more rapidly than even I anticipated. Naruto shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. I just did what needed doing. But Lysander got away, and I'm guessing they weren't the highest-ranking architect in the area. No, Amara confirmed grimly. Lysander is a field commander at best. Their leader, Kirin, remains at large, and will now be aware of your capabilities. She glanced at the unconscious architects being secured for transport. Though these captives may provide valuable intelligence. Naruto nodded, his thoughts already turning to the implications of the night's events. The architects had demonstrated both organization and power beyond what he'd initially understood. The corrupted essence they wielded was a genuine threat, capable of unmaking reality itself if unleashed in sufficient quantity. But he'd also discovered new strengths of his own, the synchronization with Kurama, the practical application of domain authority, the purification ability that seemed to come naturally to him. For the first time since receiving Brahma's blessing, he felt not just powerful but purposeful. As they prepared to return to Konoha, Naruto gazed back at the village where the shrine stood. He architects experiments there would be shut down, their subjects hopefully rescued and treated. It was a small victory in what was clearly becoming a larger conflict, but a victory nonetheless. This is just the beginning. Kurama's voice rumbled in his mind. The real battle lies ahead. I know, Naruto replied silently. But at least now we know what we're facing. And what they were facing, he realized, was nothing less than a war for reality itself. A conflict between creation and corruption, between natural evolution and forced ascension. A war he hadn't chosen, but one he was increasingly prepared to fight. As the team moved swiftly through the darkness toward Konoha, Naruto felt the seed of inception pulse gently in his pouch, its golden light a reminder of both the power he now wielded and the responsibility that came with it. Chapter 1 End. Chapter 2. The Gathering. Dawn broke over Konoha, painting the Hokage monument in hues of amber and gold. Naruto stood at his apartment window, watching the village come to life below. 3 days had passed since the confrontation with the architects, days filled with intensive debriefings, medical examinations, and cautious experimentation with his expanding abilities. The two captured architects had been placed in specialized containment cells deep beneath Anbu headquarters. Their crystalline transformations had continued to recede under Tsunade's medical supervision, revealing the ordinary humans they'd once been, a former Cloud Village censor and a civilian scholar from the Land of Iron. Both remained unconscious, their bodies slowly purging the corrupted essence that had transformed them. Naruto turned from the window, his attention drawn to the seed of inception resting on a cushion at the center of his small dining table. In the days following the battle, the seed had changed. Its golden light now contained threads of crimson, reflecting the synchronization between creation essence and Kurama's chakra. Amara had been fascinated by this development, spending hours studying the seed's altered properties. A gentle knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Opening it revealed Sakura, medical kit in hand, her expr. Eshin professional but tinged with concern. Morning check-up, she announced, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Lady Tsunade wants daily monitoring of your chakra network and essence levels. Naruto sighed but submitted to the examination without protest. These checkups had become routine, Tsunade taking no chances with his health after witnessing the effects of essence exhaustion. How are our guests doing? He asked as Sakura placed her hands on his chest, medical chakra glowing softly as she assessed his condition. Stable, she replied, concentrating on her examination. The woman, Alara, showed signs of consciousness this morning. The man remains unresponsive, though his vital signs are improving. She removed her hands, making notes on a small chart. Your reserves are nearly replenished. The integration between your standard chakra, the Nine Tails energy, and this creation essence continues to stabilize. Kurama, Naruto corrected automatically. Sakura blinked. Right, Kurama, sorry. Still getting used to the idea of the Nine Tails having a name. She finished her notes, then fixed him with a more personal look. And how are you doing? Really? Naruto considered the question. Physically, he felt fine. Better than fine, actually. The synergy between his various energy sources seemed to enhance his overall vitality. Mentally, however, it's a lot to process, he admitted. A week ago, I was just a shinobi with some unusual chakra. Now I'm apparently central to some cosmic conflict between creation and corruption. He gestured vaguely at the seed. Quote, wielding powers I barely understand against enemies I never knew existed. Sakura nodded sympathetically. I can't imagine how overwhelming it must be. But if anyone can handle unexpected power and responsibility, it's you. A small smile curved her lips. You've been preparing for this your whole life, in a way. Taking on burdens that would break others, turning challenges into strengths. Before Naruto could respond, another knock came at the door, more commanding than Sakura's had been. Opening it revealed Kakashi, unusually serious even by his standards. Alara is awake, he announced without preamble. And talking. Tsunade wants both of you at the interrogation facility immediately. The Anbu holding facility lay beneath the Hokage mountain, a warren of specialized cells designed to contain even the most dangerous captives. As Naruto, Sakura, and Kakashi descended into the complex, the air grew noticeably cooler, heavy with the sense of security seals and barrier jutsu. Ibiki Morin met them at the entrance to the interrogation section, his scarred face as impassive as ever. The subject has been cooperative, he reported, leading them down a sterile corridor. Almost eager to talk, in fact. Claims the confrontation on the ridge freed her from something. The purification, Naruto suggested. When I countered the corrupted essence with creation energy, it seemed to reverse the crystallization. Ibiki nodded. That aligns with her statements. She describes the process of becoming an architect as a gradual surrender to the elevated perspective provided by what they see. All transcendence essence, their corrupted version of what you carry. They reached a viewing room adjacent to the interrogation chamber. Through a one-way window, Naruto could see Alara seated at a table, looking remarkably normal. The crystalline growths that had covered much of her body during the confrontation had receded to small patches on her hands and neck. Her expression was alert but strangely serene, as if awakening from a long dream. Tsunade stood as they entered the viewing room. Good, you're here. She's asking to speak with Naruto specifically. Says she has information for Brahma's vessel, alone. Is that wise? Sakura asked, concern evident in her voice. We don't know if she still has access to corrupted essence. We've taken every precaution, Tsunade assured her. Each chamber is surrounded by barrier seals designed to contain essence manipulation. Amara helped design them herself. Naruto noticed the guardian standing silently in the corner of the viewing room, her amber eyes fixed on Alara with an unreadable expression. I'll talk to her, he decided. She might know something about the architect's larger plans, or about their leader, Kirin. Tsunade nodded. Proceed. But at the first sign of trouble, we extract you immediately. Naruto entered the interrogation chamber alone, the heavy door sealing behind him with an ominous click. Alara looked up as he approached, her eyes widening slightly. You're younger than I expected, she said, her voice soft but steady. Brahma's chosen vessel. A boy, not a sage or monk. Sorry to disappoint, Naruto replied, taking the seat across from her. I didn't exactly apply for the position. A smile flickered across Alara's face. No, I suppose you didn't. Neither did I, for that matter. She lifted her hands, examining the remaining crystalline patches with clinical detachment. We never do choose our paths entirely, do we? Forces beyond our comprehension move us like pieces on a board. Why did you ask to speak with me? Naruto kept his tone neutral, though his enhanced perception remained alert for any fluctuations in the potential field around them. Alara met his gaze directly. Because you saved me. What you did on that ridge, the purification, it broke through years of corruption. For the first time since I joined the architects, I can think clearly, see my actions for what they truly were. And what were they? Misguided, she said simply. Born of good intentions but warped by Kirin's influence and the corrupted essence he wields. She leaned forward slightly. You need to understand what you're facing. The architects aren't just another cult seeking power. They're the vanguard of something far larger, far more dangerous. Explain, Naruto prompted when she paused. Alara took a deep breath. It begins with Kirin himself. He was once Amara's student. I assume she's told you that much. When Naruto nodded, she continued, what she likely hasn't told you is that Kirin discovered mething during his training, a flaw in the cosmic architecture, a fundamental imbalance in the relationship between creation and dissolution. What kind of imbalance? Naruto asked, his interest piqued. Creation has been dominant in this realm for millennia, Alara explained. New forms constantly emerging, evolution proceeding unchecked. But dissolution, the necessary counter-force that returns manifested reality to potential, has been suppressed, regulated by guardians like Amara who view it as dangerous rather than essential. She gestured to the small crystal formations on her skin. These aren't corruptions, as Amara would have you believe. They're manifestations of transcendence, the physical evidence of evolution beyond current human limitations. Naruto frowned, remembering the void entity that had emerged from the breach in the forest of death. Evolution into what, exactly? Those crystal forms were rejecting your bodies, not improving them. Initial rejection is part of any evolutionary process, Alara countered. The caterpillar liquefies inside the chrysalis before becoming a butterfly. Transformation requires dissolution of old forms. Her expression turned earnest. At Kiran seeks isn't destruction for its own sake, but a necessary rebalancing, creating space for a new, higher state of being to emerge. By unmaking parts of reality, Naruto said flatly. By experimenting on unwilling subjects. Forcing this, transcendence, on them regardless of the cost. Alara had the grace to look troubled. The methods have deviated from the original vision. Kiran's frustration with resistance has led to increasingly desperate measures. That's why I'm speaking to you now, because I fear what he's becoming, what the organization is becoming under his leadership. She leaned forward again, her voice dropping to near a whisper. He's constructing something called a dissolution engine, a device designed to amplify his authority to unprecedented levels. With it, he intends to create a transcendence zone, encompassing entire regions, forcing the evolution he believes necessary. Naruto felt a chill at her words. Where? When? I don't know the exact location, Alara admitted. Only that it's within the land of fire, somewhere with natural essence conductivity. As for when? Soon. Within weeks, not months. The confrontation with you has only accelerated his timeline. Why are you telling me this? Naruto asked, studying her for any sign of deception. You were an architect. Why betray them now? Alara touched the remaining crystal on her hand, a gesture almost like caressing a wound. Because your purification didn't just clear the corruption from my body, it restored clarity to my mind. I joined the architects seeking transcendence, seeking to evolve beyond human limitations. But what Kiran offers isn't evolution, it's replacement. Substituting one form of being for another of his design, not organic growth or genuine transcendence. She met Naruto's gaze with surprising intensity. And because I've seen what you carry within you, true creation essence, unblemished, in harmony with the tailed beast's energy. It's what Kiran originally sought before. His obsession with dissolution took hold. Balance, not dominance of one force over another. Naruto considered her words carefully. Her sincerity seemed genuine, but he'd encountered skilled manipulators before. You understand I can't just take your word for all this. Of course not, Alara agreed readily. But I can provide locations of architect facilities, names of key members, details of their operations that you can verify. She hesitated, then added, and I can tell you about the others like you. That caught Naruto's attention. Others? What others? Other vessels, Alara clarified. Individuals who've integrated with divine essence. Different aspects, different authorities, but fundamentally similar to what you've experienced. Kiran has been tracking them, studying them from afar, sometimes recruiting them. How many? Naruto asked, his mind racing with implications. At least 3 that I know of with confirmed integration, Alara replied. A woman in the land of rivers who manifests transformation authority, the ability to change one thing into another without intermediate steps. A man in the northern mountains with what appears to be perception authority, seeing beyond normal limitations of time and space. And a young girl in the coastal regions who demonstrates harmony authority, the power to synchronize disparate elements into functioning wholes. Naruto struggled to process this information. He wasn't unique then. Others had somehow connected with divine essence, manifesting different aspects of cosmic authority. Potential allies, or potential complications. Would these others support Kiran's plans? He asked. Alara shook her head. The transformation vessel rejected his overtures outright. The perception vessel's position is unknown. He's a recluse, difficult to approach. The harmony vessel is just a child, perhaps 12 years old, unaware of the significance of her abilities. She leaned forward again. But Kiran continues to seek them, believing combined authorities would enable his dissolution engine to work on a global scale rather than regional. The implications were staggering. Naruto stood, needing movement to process everything he'd heard. I'll need to discuss this with the others. If what you're saying is true. It is, Alara interrupted. And there's more you should know. The architects aren't working alone. They've formed an alliance with a group from your world, former members of an organization called Akatsuki. Naruto froze. What? That's impossible. The Akatsuki were destroyed. Not entirely, Alara corrected. Some fragments remained. Specialists. Support personnel. ideological sympathizers. They found common ground with the architects, both seeking fundamental transformation of the world order, both willing to embrace extreme methods to achieve their goals. This new information changed everything. If former Akatsuki members were involved, the threat level increased significantly. They would have knowledge of the shinobi world, of village defenses, of Jinchuriki like himself. I need names, Naruto said, his voice hardening. Locations. Every detail you can provide. Alara nodded. I'll tell you everything I know. But in return, I ask only one thing. What? When you confront Kirin, and you will confront him eventually, remember that he wasn't always what he's become. The corruption of essence affects the mind as much as the body. The man beneath the crystal might still be reached, still be saved, as you saved me. Naruto studied her, sensing the genuine emotion behind her request. I'll remember, he promised. Now tell me everything. Quote, a dissolution engine capable of unmaking reality across entire regions, Tsunade summarized grimly after Naruto reported Alara's revelations. Former Akatsuki, members providing intelligence and support, and other vessels of divine essence scattered across the continent. She rubbed her temples, fighting an evident headache. As if we didn't have enough to worry about. They had reconvened in her office. Naruto, Kakashi, Sakura, Amara, and now Shikamaru Nara, brought in for his strategic insight. The atmosphere was tense as they processed the implications of Alara's information. Can we trust her? Shikamaru asked, his analytical mind already working through possibilities. This could be misinformation, designed to send us in the wrong direction. Possible, Kakashi acknowledged, but preliminary verification supports some of her claims. We've confirmed unusual energy signatures at 2 of the locations she identified as architect facilities. Dr. Intelligence archives contain scattered reports matching her descriptions of the other vessels, though they weren't recognized as significant at the time. The alliance with former Akatsuki elements is particularly concerning. Tsunade noted, it suggests a level of organization and infiltration capability beyond what we initially assumed. Amara, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. Alara's information about Kirin and the dissolution engine aligns with what I know of his evolving philosophy. He always believed that creation had become dominant at dissolution's expense, that a rebalancing was necessary. But his methods have grown increasingly extreme over the centuries. Centuries, Shikamaru repeated, shaking his head slightly. I'm still adjusting to the timeframes involved in all this. The immediate question, Kakashi redirected, is how to respond. If the dissolution engine is real and nearly operational, we face a threat beyond standard military parameters. All eyes turned to Naruto, who had been unusually quiet during the discussion. He looked up, meeting their gazes with newfound resolve. We need to find these other vessels, he said firmly. If what Alara says is true, they could be powerful allies, or targets for the architects. Either way, we can't leave them unaware of what's happening. Agreed, Tsunade nodded, but we can't send you unprotected. The architect's primary goal remains capturing you and your creation authority. I'll go with him, Amara offered immediately. My ability to sense essence disturbances will help locate the vessels. And I can continue his training during travel. A small team, Kakashi suggested. Myself, Sakura, and Sai, plus Naruto and Amara. Enough for security without drawing excessive attention. Shikamaru frowned. Splitting our defensive capabilities when we know an attack is coming seems risky. What if this dissolution engine is activated while you're away? We'll establish a communication network, Tsunade decided. Regular check-ins, emergency protocols. At the first sign of unusual activity, the team returns immediately. She turned to Naruto. Which vessel do you propose contacting first? Naruto considered the question. The transformation vessel in the land of rivers. She's already rejected the architect's approach, which suggests she might be amenable to ours. And geographically, she's closest. Her name is Kira, according to Alara, Kakashi added. A former shinobi who abandoned her village after experiencing what was described as a spiritual awakening 3 years ago. That timing coincides with a meteor shower that reportedly contained unusual crystalline fragments, possibly a form of divine essence. Similar to how I encountered the chest, Naruto noted. Different delivery mechanism, same basic principle, exposure to raw essence. If these vessels form through accidental contact, Shikamaru mused, it raises questions about how many others might exist undiscovered. What percentage of essence exposures result in successful integration rather than rejection? Very few, Amara answered. Perhaps 1 in thousands. The compatibility requirements are extraordinarily specific, a combination of physical resilience, mental flexibility, and spiritual receptivity that few possess naturally. Tsunade stood, her decision made. The team will depart tomorrow at dawn. Your mission is to locate and establish contact with Kira, assess her abilities and intentions, and extend an invitation to alliance against the architects. Avoid confrontation with enemy forces. If possible, this is primarily a diplomatic mission. She fixed Naruto with a stern look. And you will continue your training throughout. If this confrontation with Kirin is inevitable, you need every advantage possible. As the meeting dispersed, Shikamaru held Naruto back. A word, he requested, guiding them to a quiet corner of the office. What's up? Naruto asked, noting his friend's troubled expression. Shikamaru glanced toward Amara, ensuring she was engaged with Tsunade before speaking. How much do you actually trust her? He asked quietly. This guardian who appeared conveniently after you acquired these powers. Naruto considered the question seriously. She's been straightforward so far. Her training has helped me control abilities that could have been dangerous otherwise. Her personal history with Kirin creates a conflict of interest, Shikamaru pointed out. Her former student becomes her enemy, and now she guides you toward confronting him. The emotional dynamics there are complicated. You think she has her own agenda, Naruto surmised. Everyone has an agenda, Shikamaru replied pragmatically. The question is whether hers aligns with your well-being and Konoha's security. Just keep your eyes open. Don't accept everything at face value, especially, from someone who presents themselves as your guide. Naruto nodded, appreciating his friend's concern. I will. Thanks, Shikamaru. One more thing, Shikamaru added. If you do find these other vessels, remember that shared circumstances don't automatically make them allies. People react differently to sudden power. Not everyone handles it with your particular brand of stubborn idealism. Is that a compliment or an insult? Naruto asked with a small smile. Both, Shikamaru replied with his characteristic half-smirk. Just be careful out there. This divine essence business is troublesome enough without adding unpredictable personalities to the mix. Dawn found Naruto at Konoha's eastern gate, pack secured. The seed of inception carefully stowed in a specially designed pouch at his waist. The past night had been spent in preparation, studying maps of the land of rivers, reviewing Ilara's information, and saying goodbye to his plants, this time asking Shikamaru to water them rather than leaving them to their fate. Sakura arrived next, her own preparations evidently complete. She carried her standard medical pack plus additional supplies specifically designed to address essence-related injuries, developed in consultation with Tsunade and Amara. Nervous? She asked, noting Naruto's unusual quietude. He shook his head. Not nervous exactly, just aware of the stakes. If Ilara's information is accurate, we're not just looking for potential allies. We're racing against Kirin's timeline for the dissolution engine. One step at a time, Sakura advised. First, we find Kira and establish contact. Everything else follows from there. Sai and Kakashi arrived together, followed shortly by Amara, who had exchanged her flowing robes for more practical travel attire, though still in the deep blue that seemed to be her preference. With final instructions from Tsunade and a communication schedule established, they departed, moving at a steady pace through the forests surrounding Konoha. Their route would take them southwest toward the land of rivers, a journey of approximately 3 days at standard travel speed. Kakashi set a moderate pace, balancing the need for haste against the importance of remaining alert for potential threats. As they traveled, Amara continued Naruto's training. Unlike the intensive sessions in the Forest of Death, these exercises focused on practical applications, maintaining awareness of the potential field while in motion, creating objects with minimal concentration, and establishing small, specific domains for particular purposes. Creation authority isn't just about grand gestures, she explained as they paused at midday. Its versatility lies in subtle manipulations, small changes that cascade into larger effects. She demonstrated by touching a nearby stream, creating a minor alteration in its flow pattern. The seeming L.Y. insignificant change gradually reshaped the bank, creating a natural dam that widened the stream into a small pool, perfect for refilling water containers. Minimal input, maximum result, she explained. Working with existing potential rather than forcing entirely new manifestations. Naruto practiced this approach throughout the day, making small adjustments to their path, smoothing rough terrain, subtly altering air currents to carry away their scent, enhancing natural camouflage. Each manipulation required less energy than direct creation, while achieving equally useful outcomes. By evening, they had covered significant ground, reaching the border between the land of fire and the land of rivers. They established camp in a defensible position, creating ink beasts to patrol the perimeter while Kakashi set standard shinobi traps. As night fell, Naruto found himself seated beside the small campfire, the seed of inception resting in his palms. In the firelight, the golden red energy within seemed to dance in harmony with the flames, responding to his unconscious emotional state. It's becoming more attuned to you, Amara observed, seating herself across from him. The seed adapts to its keeper's nature over time. Is that why the color changed? Naruto asked, the red threads mixing with the gold. Amara nodded. It reflects the synchronization between creation essence and Kurama's chakra, a visual representation of your unique integration. Naruto studied the seed thoughtfully. Could other vessels do the same? Integrate their divine authority with other forms of energy? Theoretically, yes, Amara confirmed, though the compatibility requirements are stringent. Your situation is unique because tailed beasts already exist at the intersection of physical and divine, conscious energy given form. As Kurama explained to you. Which makes me wonder about the other vessels, Naruto mused. Kira, with transformation authority. The perception vessel in the mountains. The child with harmony authority. Do they have similar advantages? Or are they limited to just the divine essence itself? A question worth exploring when we meet them, Amara agreed. Each authority manifests differently, shaped by both its inherent nature and the vessel's personality. Transformation, for instance, allows the conversion of one form to another without intermediate steps, bypassing the normal processes of change. And perception, Naruto prompted, genuinely curious about these other authorities. Perception authority grants awareness beyond normal limitations, seeing across distances, through barriers. Even glimpsing potential futures or past events. While creation makes what could be into what is, perception recognizes what truly is beneath appearances. And harmony. Amara's expression softened slightly, perhaps the most subtle but profound authority. Harmony creates resonance between disparate elements, allowing them to function as integrated wholes rather than separate parts. It can bridge gaps, heal divisions, create connections where none existed before. Naruto absorbed this information, considering the implications. Together, these authorities would be incredibly powerful. Creation to manifest, transformation to reshape, perception to understand, harmony to integrate. Precisely why Kirin seeks to either recruit or neutralize all vessels, Amara confirmed grimly. Combined authorities approach the comprehensive power of true divinity. Is that what the architects ultimately want? Naruto asked. To become gods. Amara was silent for a moment, her amber eyes reflecting the dancing flames. Kirin's original vision was more nuanced. Transcendence beyond current limitations, yes, but as part of natural cosmic evolution, not forced ascension. Somewhere along the way, that vision became corrupted, just as the essence he wields became corrupted. Sakura, who had been listening silently, joined the conversation. You speak of him with such complexity. As if you still care what happens to him. I do, Amara admitted simply. For centuries, he was my student, my companion in guardianship. I failed him, failed to recognize his growing frustration. His sense that the cosmic balance had tilted too far toward creation at dissolution's expense. She looked directly at Sakura. Caring for someone doesn't preclude opposing their actions when they're wrong. Sometimes, it requires it. The conversation lapsed into thoughtful silence, broken only by the crackling of the fire and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. Eventually, Kakashi established watch rotations, and the camp settled for the night. Naruto took the first watch, perched in a tree overlooking their campsite. As the others slept, he reached out with his enhanced perception, scanning the surrounding area for any disturbances in the potential field. Nothing registered as threatening, just the normal fluctuations caused by wind, wildlife, and the natural flow of energy through the environment. Thinking about these other vessels, Kurama's voice rumbled in his mind. Yeah, Naruto admitted internally, wondering what they're like, how they've handled their abilities. Not all will have adapted as you have, Kurama cautioned. Power changes humans in unpredictable ways. Some rise to its challenges, others are consumed by them. Like Kirin, Naruto observed. Perhaps his transformation reflects something that was always within him, merely awaiting the catalyst of power to emerge. Kurama's mental voice held unusual thoughtfulness. You humans are complex creatures, capable of both tremendous compassion and staggering cruelty, often within the same individual. Speaking from experience, Naruto asked, a hint of wry humor in his mental tone. A rumble of amusement came from the tailed beast. I have observed humanity for centuries, experienced both its worst and, more recently, its better qualities. You are interesting, if nothing else. High praise, coming from you. Naruto teased. Don't get used to it, Kurama retorted, though without real heat. After a moment, he added, the woman approaching, Sakura. She has concerns she hasn't voiced. Naruto blinked, registering Sakura's approach just as Kurama mentioned her. She moved silently through the camp, making her way toward his position. Can't sleep? He asked as she reached the base of his tree. Sakura looked up, not surprised that he'd noticed her. Mind if I join you? Naruto patted the branch beside him, and she leapt up with the easy grace of a trained shinobi, settling herself against the trunk. Something on your mind? He prompted when she remained silent. Sakura hesitated, then asked, have you noticed anything strange about Amara's explanations? About how Shish-E describes different authorities and their functions. Naruto frowned. Strange how she speaks of creation, transformation, perception, harmony, all positive, constructive forces. But when she meant Kirin's authority, dissolution, it's always with negative connotations. Corruption, unmaking, destruction. Sakura turned to face him directly. But if these authorities are fundamental cosmic forces, shouldn't dissolution be just as necessary as creation? Alara said as much, that dissolution returns manifested reality to potential, making space for new creation. Naruto hadn't considered this perspective. You think Amara is biased against dissolution because of her history with Kirin? I think it's worth questioning, Sakura replied carefully. Everything in nature requires balance, life and death, growth and decay, building and dismantling. If creation without dissolution would lead to stagnation, an overcrowded reality with no room for evolution, then isn't Kirin's basic premise valid, even if his methods are extreme? It was a thought-provoking question, one that resonated with Naruto's own developing understanding of creation authority. His power worked best not when forcing entirely new manifestations, but when recognizing and drawing forth existing potential, which sometimes required clearing away what currently existed. I'll ask her about it, he decided. Directly. You're right that there's an inconsistency there worth exploring. Sakura nodded, seemingly relieved that he was taking her observation seriously. Just maintain your independence of thought, Naruto. They always had an intuitive understanding of balance, finding the middle path where others see only extremes. Don't lose that, even with a teacher as knowledgeable as Amara. I won't, he promised. And thanks, Sakura, for watching out for me. She smiled, bumping her shoulder against his gently. Always have, always will. Someone needs to keep your head from getting too big, especially now that you're playing with divine power. Naruto chuckled, appreciating the return to their comfortable dynamic. As Sakura departed to get some sleep before her watch, he returned his attention to the surrounding forest. But his mind remained occupied with her questions. Was dissolution truly corruption, as Amara consistently presented it? Or was it a necessary counterbalance to creation, misused by Kirin, perhaps, but fundamentally neutral? Like any cosmic force, these were questions he couldn't answer alone, but they underscored Shikamaru's warning about maintaining perspective. As the night deepened around him, Naruto resolved to approach the coming encounters with an open mind, not just with Kira and the other vessels, but with his own understanding of the authorities they wielded. The land of rivers lived up to its name, a region crisscrossed by countless waterways, from mighty rivers to delicate streams, all flowing through verdant valleys between rocky plateaus. Their journey took them deeper into this network of waterways. Following Alara's information about Kira's location, she established a sanctuary near the confluence of the Silvermist and Deepcurrent rivers, Kakashi explained as they traveled. According to local reports, she offers healing to those who seek her out, transforming disease into health, injury into wholeness. Using transformation authority for medical purposes, Sakura observed with professional interest. That could be incredibly powerful, bypassing the normal healing process to simply convert damaged tissue directly to healthy tissue. If she's helping people, why hide in the wilderness? Sai asked pragmatically. Why not establish a proper medical facility in a village? Perhaps because not all transformations are viewed as healing, Amara suggested. Transformation authority doesn't distinguish between improvement and alteration. It simply converts one form to another according to the user's intent. Such power could easily frighten those who don't understand it. By midday of their second day in the land of rivers, they began to encounter subtle signs that they were approaching Kira's territory. The vegetation grew more vibrant, with unusual hybridizations between plant species that shouldn't naturally coexist. Wildlife displayed similar anomalies, birds with slightly altered plumage, fish with enhanced coloration. She's been experimenting, Amara noted, examining a flower that combined characteristics of 3 different species. Testing the boundaries of her authority, seeing what's possible. Is that safe? Sakura asked. Her medical training making her wary of unintended consequences. Transformation is less potentially disruptive than creation or dissolution, Amara explained. It works with what already exists rather than manifesting new reality or unmaking what is. These changes appear deliberate, controlled, aesthetic rather than functional modifications. As they continued, Naruto extended his perception, searching for essence signatures similar to his own. At first, he detected nothing unusual, just the normal potential field with its countless fluctuations. Then, as they rounded a bend in the river they'd been following, he felt it, a distinct ripple in the field, a pattern of potential manipulation unlike anything he'd experienced before. There, he said, pointing toward a distant plateau rising from the valley floor. I can sense her. It's different from creation essence, but related somehow, like a different dialect of the same language. Amara nodded in confirmation. Transformation authority, similar fundamental nature, different expression. They approached cautiously, aware that someone wielding divine authority would likely sense their arrival just as Naruto had sensed her. The plateau rose about 100 feet above the valley, its sides steep but not impassable. A narrow path wound around its base, gradually ascending to the top. Direct approach, Kakashi decided after assessing their options. No attempt at concealment. We want to establish trust, not appear threatening. As they ascended the path, the signs of transformation authority became more pronounced. The stone of the plateau itself had been altered, veins of crystalline material running through it that sparkled with inner light. The vegetation grew in patterns too regular to be natural, forming what appeared to be deliberate designs when viewed from certain angles. Near the summit, the path opened onto a broad, flat area dominated by a structure that defied conventional architecture. It appeared to be a dwelling of sorts, but one created by transforming the plateau itself. Stone flowing like liquid into curved walls, windows that weren't cut but simply areas where the stone had become transparent, a roof at blended seamlessly with the living plants growing over and through it. The entire structure existed in harmony with its surroundings, as if it had grown naturally from the plateau rather than being built upon it. Before they could approach further, a woman emerged from the dwelling. Tall and lithe, with copper skin and hair the color of burnished mahogany, she moved with fluid grace that suggested both physical training and absolute comfort in her environment. Her clothing was simple but elegant, layered fabrics in earth tones that complemented her surroundings. Most striking, however, were her eyes, shifting constantly between colors, never settling on a single hue, as if the very concept of fixed appearance was foreign to them. Visitors, she observed, her voice musical but wary. An unusual assortment. Her gaze fixed on Naruto, then Amara, recognition flickering across her features. A vessel and a guardian. How interesting. You know what we are, Naruto said, not really a question. The woman, Kira, presumably, smiled slightly. Just as you recognized me. Divine essence leaves its mark on those who carry it, visible to others of similar nature. Her gaze swept over the rest of the team. And you bring shinobi companions. From Konoha, based on your headbands. Curious. Kakashi stepped forward, adopting a non-threatening posture. We come seeking dialogue, not confrontation. My name is Kakashi Hatake. These are my colleagues Sakura Haruno and Sai. And yes, this is Naruto Uzumaki and Amara. I know who Amara is, Kira replied, her shifting eyes fixing on the guardian with an unreadable expression. Her reputation precedes her among those with awareness of the divine. She returned her attention to Naruto. You, however, are new. Creation Authority, if I'm not mistaken. Recently acquired. Naruto nodded. About 2 weeks ago, through an encounter with an artifact. The chest from the Eastern Temples, Kira surmised. I felt the ripple when it opened. Quite dramatic. She studied him more intently. And you've already achieved essence synchronization with your tailed beast. Impressive progress for one so newly awakened. Her casual reference to Kurama caught Naruto off guard. You can sense that too. Transformation Authority allows me to perceive the true nature of things, including the energies that flow through living beings. Kira made a welcoming gesture. But we shouldn't stand on the threshold. Come, enter my sanctuary. We have much to discuss, I think. She turned and walked back toward the transformed dwelling, clearly expecting them to follow. After a brief exchange of glances, they did, with Kakashi signaling Sai to remain alert for any potential threat. The interior of Kira's home defied conventional expectations even more than the exterior. Spaces flowed into one another without clear boundaries, light entering through walls that shifted between transparency and translucence according to some unseen pattern. Furniture seemed to row directly from the floor. Comfortable seating areas formed from the same material as the walls, tables that emerged from the ground like strangely elegant mushrooms. You've created quite a home, Sakura observed, her natural curiosity overcoming her caution. Transformed, not created, Kira corrected, gesturing for them to sit in a circular arrangement of seats. I work with what exists, Reshap. Ing it to better serve purpose and beauty simultaneously. The plateau provides the material, I simply alter its expression. As they settled themselves, Kira waved a hand, and a section of wall flowed outward, forming a table laden with fresh fruits, bread, and clear water in crystalline vessels. Refreshment, she offered. The journey from Konoha is long, and conversation flows better when basic needs are met. There was something disarming about her casual use of her abilities, no grand gestures or elaborate techniques, just simple, practical applications woven into everyday actions. It spoke of long familiarity, of power integrated so thoroughly into life that it had become as natural as breathing. You mentioned that you felt the ripple when I received creation authority, Naruto said after accepting a cup of water. Does that mean you're aware of other vessels as well? Kira nodded, seating herself across from them. To some degree, divine essence responds to divine essence across distances, like recognizing like. I've sensed several awakening over recent years, though I've met only one other personally. The Harmony vessel, Amara asked, the child from the coastal regions. Kira's ever-changing eyes narrowed slightly. You're well informed for someone who hasn't been actively involved in these matters for some time, Guardian. Circumstances have changed, Amara replied evenly. The architects have become more aggressive in their activities, forcing a more direct response. Ah yes, the architects of Ascension, Kira said, a note of disdain entering her voice. They approached me 2 years ago, spouting grand philosophies about transcendence and evolution. Behind the pretty words, all I heard was hunger for power they hadn't earned and wouldn't respect. They mentioned you'd rejected their overtures. Naruto confirmed. That's partly why we sought you out first. Kira's gaze sharpened. First, you intend to contact other vessels as well. Kakashi took over the explanation, outlining their discovery of the architect's plans for the dissolution engine, their alliance with former Akatsuki members, and the information provided by Lara about other vessels being potential targets. As he spoke, Kira's expression grew increasingly troubled. When he finished, she rose and moved to a window-like opening that provided a view of the valley below. A dissolution engine, she murmured. Kirin grows more ambitious, and more reckless. To manipulate essence on such a scale risks more than just local devastation. It could create cascade effects across the entire region, possibly beyond. That's our assessment as well, Amara agreed. Which is why we're seeking to form an alliance of vessels, individuals with the capacity to counter the architect's activities directly. Kira turned back to face them, her shifting eyes settling momentarily on a deep, thoughtful blue. And what exactly would this alliance entail? What would you expect of me? It was Naruto who answered, rising to meet her gaze directly. First, information. Your experience with Transformation Authority, your knowledge of other vessels, your insights into how these different divine aspects interact. Beyond that, he shrugged slightly. I don't know yet. We're facing something none of us fully understands, trying to prevent a disaster whose exact nature we can only guess at. I can't FFER a detailed plan because I don't have one. His honesty seemed to surprise Kira, then amuse her. Refreshingly direct, she commented. Most who seek alliances come with carefully constructed proposals and hidden agendas. You offer neither. Not my style, Naruto replied simply. Kira studied him for a long moment, her eyes cycling through colors before settling on a warm amber remarkably similar to Amara's. Tell me, Naruto Uzumaki, what do you intend to do with Creation Authority once this immediate crisis has passed? What is your vision for such power? The question echoed Kurama's from days earlier, and just as then. Naruto found himself considering it carefully before answering. I don't have some grand plan for reshaping the world, he said finally. I've always wanted to protect those precious to me. To help build a world where understanding outweighs conflict. Creation Authority doesn't change that goal, it just gives me different tools to work toward it. And if those tools could reshape reality itself? Kira pressed. If you could manifest any world you imagined, that wouldn't be evolution, Naruto replied, recalling his conversation with Sakura. Just replacement. Substituting my vision for natural development. I don't think that's the purpose of these authorities. Kira's expression softened slightly, approval evident in her stance. An unexpectedly wise perspective from one so young. She returned to her seat, her demeanor more open than before. Very well. I'm willing to share information and consider further cooperation as the situation develops. But I have conditions. Name them, Kakashi invited. First, my sanctuary remains inviolate. I've established this place as neutral ground, a refuge for those seeking healing or guidance. That status must be respected regardless of any alliance. Agreed, Naruto said immediately. We wouldn't ask you to compromise that. Second, Kira continued, I maintain autonomy of action. I will not be commanded or directed like a subordinate. Any joint efforts must be collaborative, with equal voice given to all participants. Also reasonable, Kakashi acknowledged. This would be an alliance of equals, not a hierarchical structure. And third, Kira's voice softened slightly, the child vessel, Mei, the harmony bearer, must be protected above all others. She is too young to fully understand her authority, too vulnerable to manipulation. Her safety must be a priority in any plans we make. This request struck Naruto as particularly significant, suggesting a personal connection beyond mere awareness of another vessel. You know her well, he asked. I've guided her since her awakening 2 years ago, Kira confirmed. Her parents brought her to me when her abilities first manifested, seeking understanding of what was happening to their daughter. I've provided what instruction I can, though Harmony Authority differs significantly from Transformation. Is she safe now? Sakura asked, her concern evident. As safe as I can make her. Kira replied. She remains with her family in a coastal village, living as normal a life as possible. I visit regularly to continue her instruction and monitor her development. The village itself is remote, unlikely to draw attention. Unless the architects already know of her existence, Amara pointed out soberly. As they knew of yours. Kira's expression darkened. A concern I live with daily. It's why I've established contingency plans, emergency protocols should her location be compromised. Naruto exchanged glances with Kakashi, a silent communication passing between them. Perhaps our next step should be to ensure Mei's security, Naruto suggested. If the architects are accelerating their timeline, vulnerable targets would logically become priorities. My thoughts exactly, Kakashi agreed. A detour to the coastal region would be prudent before attempting to locate the perception vessel in the northern mountains. Hira studied them thoughtfully. You would prioritize a child's safety over recruitment of a potentially powerful ally. Without hesitation, Naruto confirmed. Power isn't worth much if we sacrifice what matters to obtain it. Something in Kira's expression shifted, a subtle softening around her eyes. Then perhaps this alliance has more potential than I initially thought. She rose decisively. I'll accompany you to the coastal village. My presence will reassure Mei and her family, and my knowledge of the region will expedite our journey. The offer surprised them, but Kakashi recovered quickly. We welcome your assistance. When can you be ready to depart? I'm always ready, Kira replied with a slight smile. A consequence of transformation authority, possessions become largely unnecessary when you can alter anything to serve immediate needs. She made a flowing gesture with one hand, and her simple attire shifted, becoming more suitable for travel while maintaining its distinctive style. As the others prepared to depart, Kira drew Naruto aside. A word of advice, she said quietly. Creation authority is perhaps the most fundamental of all divine aspects, but also the most demanding of wisdom. The temptation to reshape reality according to desire rather than need is constant, a whisper always present at the edges of consciousness. I've noticed, Naruto admitted. Sometimes I catch myself thinking how easy it would be to just fix things, make problems disappear. Hira nodded understanding. The true mastery of any authority comes not from what you do with it, but what you refrain from doing. Power exercised with restraint demonstrates greater control than power used at every opportunity. It was profound advice, resonating with Naruto's own developing philosophy. Thank you, he said sincerely. I'd welcome any guidance you're willing to share. This is all still very new to me. Yet you adapt remarkably well, Hira observed. Most new vessels struggle for months or years to achieve the level of integration you've demonstrated in weeks. There's something unique about your relationship with divine essence, a natural affinity I haven't encountered before. Before Naruto could respond, Amara approached. Her expression carefully neutral. We should depart if we wish to make significant progress before nightfall. The coastal region is at least 3 days' journey from here. Hira acknowledged this with a graceful nod. Though Naruto noticed a subtle tension between the two women, not hostility exactly, but a wariness born of differing perspectives and perhaps old history. As they left the transformed plateau, Naruto found himself reflecting on Kira's words about restraint and wisdom. He'd been so focused on learning what he could do with creation authority that he'd given little thought to when he should refrain from using it. Perhaps that balance, knowing not just how, but when to exercise power, was the true lesson he needed to master. Their journey toward the coastal region began at a brisk pace. With Kira proving to be an efficient and knowledgeable guide, she led them along routes that avoided populated areas while maximizing speed, sometimes transforming the terrain in itself to create easier passages where obstacles presented themselves. The village where Mei lives is called Nami no Yuta, Song of the Waves, she explained as they traveled. A small fishing community, largely self-sufficient and isolated from the politics of larger nations. Her parents are both fishers, respected members of their community. They've handled their daughter's unusual abilities with remarkable grace and openness. How exactly does harmony authority manifest in a child? Sakura asked, her medical curiosity evident. What can she do? It began simply, an unusual affinity with animals, particularly those that normally conflict with each other. Birds and cats resting peacefully together in her presence, predator and prey species coexisting without fear. Hira smiled at the memory. As she grew older, the effect expanded to people. She could calm arguments with a touch, bring understanding between those locked in conflict. Useful skills, Kakashi observed. Though I imagine they caused complications as well. Indeed, Hira acknowledged. Harmony doesn't distinguish between beneficial conflict and harmful conflict. It seeks resonance and integration regardless of context. Teaching Mei to recognize when harmony should be encouraged versus when natural tension serves a purpose has been challenging. As evening approached, they established camp near a small lake. with Sai creating his usual ink beasts for perimeter security. Naruto noticed that Kira observed this technique with evident interest. Fascinating, she commented. Creation through transformation. Ink becoming autonomous entities through chakra manipulation. Your shinobi abilities have more in common with divine authorities than most realize. I've had similar thoughts, Amara agreed, surprise. Naruto with her willingness to engage Kira directly. Chakra itself exists at the intersection of physical and spiritual energies, a bridge between mundane and divine. Which may explain why certain individuals are more receptive to divine essence integration, Kira suggested. Those already accustomed to manipulating energy across that boundary would naturally have greater compatibility. It was a reasonable theory, and one that might explain Naruto's unusually rapid adaptation to creation authority. His experience with Kurama's chakra had already required him to manage energy far beyond normal human capacity. As night deepened around their camp, Naruto found himself observing the subtle dynamics between Amara and Kira. Though civil, even collaborative in their shared knowledge, an underlying tension remained, something unspoken that created distance despite their apparent common ground. When Kira moved away to assist Sakura with preparing evening meal, Naruto seized the opportunity to approach Amara directly. There's history between you two, he observed quietly. Beyond just guardian and vessel. Amara regarded him with a hint of surprise, then resignation. Your perceptiveness continues to develop. She glanced toward Kira before continuing. Yes, there is history. Kira was once a candidate for guardianship herself, someone I considered training as a potential successor. What happened? We disagreed on fundamental principles, Amara replied, her voice carefully neutral. She believed guardians should take a more active role in human affairs, using divine knowledge to guide development rather than merely protecting artifacts and maintaining boundaries. That doesn't sound unreasonable, Naruto observed. In theory, perhaps not, Amara conceded. In practice, intervention inevitably leads to dependency and distortion of natural development. Guardians were established to maintain balance, not to direct evolution according to our judgment, no matter how well-intentioned. The explanation rang somewhat hollow to Naruto, particularly given Amara's current active involvement in his training and their mission against the architects. Before he could point out this inconsistency, however, Kira returned, effectively ending their private conversation. Dinner passed with general discussion of their route for the coming days, with Kakashi and Kira comparing knowledge of the coastal terrain they would traverse. As the meal concluded, Sai raised a question that had apparently been on his mind. If transformation authority allows the conversion of one form to another, he asked Kira. What are its limitations? Could you transform anything into anything else? Stone into food, water into fire? Kira seemed to appreciate the direct inquiry. Transformation operates within certain natural constraints, she explained. Mass must be conserved. I cannot transform a pebble into a mountain, nor a lake into a teardrop. Energy states must be respected. Transforming water into fire requires an energy input equivalent to the difference between their states. She demonstrated by picking up a stone, then transforming it into a fruit of approximately equal size. Within those constraints, however, the possibilities are vast. I can transform inorganic matter into organic, solid into liquid, simple into complex, so long as the fundamental equivalence is maintained. And living beings, Sai pressed, ever pragmatic. Can you transform people? A shadow passed across Kira's features. I can, she acknowledged. Though I rarely do, and never without explicit consent. Transformation of sentient beings carries both practical and ethical complexities beyond mere physical alteration. You've done it, though, Naruto observed, sensing there was more to her response than she was sharing. Kira met his gaze directly, her shifting eyes momentarily settling on a deep, somber gray. Yes, primarily for healing. Transforming diseased tissue to healthy, damaged organs to whole ones. But there have been other applications, in circumstances where conventional options were insufficient. The cryptic response raised more questions than it answered, but something in Ra's demeanor suggested this was a sensitive topic best not pursued in their current setting. As the group settled for the night, watch rotations established and comfortable silence falling over the camp. Naruto found himself reflecting on the growing complexity of their situation. What had begun as a straightforward mission to contact potential allies was revealing layers of history, philosophy, and unspoken tension he hadn't anticipated. "You're learning that divine power comes with divine politics," Kurama observed dryly in his mind. "Did you think cosmic forces would be simpler than human ones? I guess I hoped they might be more straightforward," Naruto admitted internally. "Less personal. Everything becomes personal when filtered through conscious beings," Kurama replied. "Divine essence, chakra, natural energy, all are neutral in their pure state. It's the vessels, the users, who introduce complexity through their intentions and limitations." It was an insightful observation from the tailed beast, one that aligned with Naruto's developing understanding of creation authority. The power itself wasn't inherently constructive or destructive, it simply was. How it manifested depended entirely on the consciousness directing it. With that thought lingering in his mind, Naruto eventually drifted into sleep, his dreams filled with shifting forms and transforming landscapes, e.c. Hose of Kira's authority bleeding into his subconscious. The coastal journey took them through gradually changing terrain, rivers widening into estuaries, forests giving way to salt-tolerant shrublands, rocky outcroppings offering glimpses of the distant ocean. By the third day, the smell of salt hung heavy in the air, and seabirds wheeled overhead in graceful formations. Throughout the journey, Naruto continued his training under Amara's guidance, now supplemented by Kira's occasional insights. The two authorities, creation and transformation, shared certain fundamental principles while differing significantly in application. Where creation drew forth new manifestations from potential, transformation reshaped what already existed into new forms. "Try to sense the difference," Kira suggested during a midday rest. "When I transform this rock," she demonstrated, the stone in her hand flowing like liquid before reforming as a small sculpture, "the essence remains the same, merely reconfigured. The underlying reality is unchanged, only its expression altered." Naruto extended his perception, observing the process with his enhanced awareness. Unlike creation, which involved a surge of new potential becoming manifest, transformation maintained a constant energy state, a continuous flow rather than a discrete manifestation. "I see it," he said, fascinated by the distinction. "Creation adds to reality. Transformation rearranges it." "Precisely," Kira nodded approvingly. "Which is why transformation generally requires less energy than equivalent creation. I'm not fighting entropy or generating new complexity, simply redirecting what already exists." These lessons proved valuable, influencing Naruto's approach to his own authority. He began experimenting with hybrid techniques, using minimal creation to supplement existing reality rather than manifesting entirely new forms, achieving more efficient results with less essence expenditure. By late afternoon of the third day, they rested a ridge that offered their first clear view of the ocean, a vast expanse of blue stretching to the horizon. Nestled in a protected cove below, a small village of perhaps 50 structures huddled against the shoreline. Fishing boats dotting the harbor. "Nami no Yuta," Kira confirmed, a hint of fondness in her voice. "Mei's home." As they began their descent toward the village, Naruto sensed Kira suddenly tense beside him. Following her gaze, he saw what had alarmed her: thin columns of smoke rising from several points within the settlement, not the controlled smoke of cooking fires but the thicker plumes of structural burning. "Something's wrong," Kira said, her voice tight with concern. Without waiting for discussion, she accelerated her pace, practically flying down the slope toward the village. The others followed immediately, all pretense of casual approach abandoned. As they drew closer, the sounds of conflict became audible: shouts, crashes, the distinctive noise of combat. "Spread out," Kakashi ordered crisply. "Sakura, be ready for medical support. Sai, aerial reconnaissance." "Naruto, I'm going with Kira," Naruto interrupted, already moving to catch up with the transformation vessel, who had pulled ahead significantly. They reached the village outskirts to find chaos, buildings damaged or burning, villagers fleeing in terror, and at the center of it all, figures engaged in combat. Even at a distance, Naruto recognized the distinctive crystalline growths of the architects, their partially transformed bodies unmistakable as they pursued fleeing villagers. Kira didn't hesitate. With a fluid motion that spoke of both shinobi training and long practice with her authority, she launched herself toward the nearest architect, a hulking figure whose right arm had been MP lately replaced by a crystalline appendage, currently raised to strike a fallen villager. Kira. Wait, Naruto called, but she was already engaged. The transformation was immediate and devastating. As Kira's hand made contact with the architect's crystalline arm, the material began to flow like liquid, reverting from hardened crystal back to human flesh. The architect screamed, not in pain but in what sounded like existential terror, as the transformation cascaded through their body, forcibly reversing the changes they had embraced as evolution. Blasphemy! The architect shrieked, trying desperately to pull away. The transcendence cannot be undone. Watch me, Kira replied coldly, maintaining her grip as the transformation continued. Naruto had no time to observe the outcome as two more architects noticed their arrival and moved to intercept. Unlike the partially transformed attacker Kira engaged, these opponents showed more advanced integration, their bodies almost entirely crystalline. Only faint suggestions of their original human forms remaining. The creation vessel, one hissed, voice distorted through a mouth that seemed formed of interlocking crystal shards. Kirin will reward us greatly for your capture. Naruto centered himself, drawing on both creation essence and a measured portion of Kurama's chakra. The golden red energy manifested around him, responding to his focused intent. Careful, Kurama cautioned in his mind. These are more thoroughly corrupted than those we faced before. Direct purification may be beyond your current capacity. Noted, Naruto acknowledged silently. Alternative suggestions. Containment rather than conversion. Limit their movement. Restrict their essence manipulation. Following this advice, Naruto established a small credo. End domain. Not attempting to purify the corrupted essence as he had with Lysander, but simply creating boundaries that the corruption couldn't cross. Within this defined space, approximately 10 meters in diameter, he manifested the simple rule: essence cannot be manipulated except by himself. The effect was immediate. The advancing architects stumbled as their connection to their corrupted essence was temporarily severed. Their crystalline forms suddenly rigid rather than fluid. What have you done? One demanded, panic evident in their distorted voice. Leveled the playing field, Naruto replied, moving forward with purpose. Without their essence manipulation, the architects were still dangerous, their crystalline forms naturally durable and sharp-edged, but significantly less threatening. Naruto engaged them with traditional shinobi techniques, augmented by strategic creation of simple objects, barriers to restrict their movement, surfaces altered to reduce traction, air density modified to slow their attacks. Around him, the battle spread throughout the village. Kakashi engaged what appeared to be the architect's leader, a slender figure whose entire body shimmered with iridescent crystal. Moving with unnatural speed and precision, Sakura had positioned herself to protect a group of villagers, her chakra-enhanced strength sending architects flying when they approached too closely. Sai circled overhead on an ink construct, providing tactical information and occasional support with ink beasts. And Kira moved through the conflict like a force of nature, her transformation authority reversing the crystalline alterations of every architect she touched. Some fled from her in terror, while others attacked with desperate ferocity, as if her ability represented an existential threat to everything they believed. Find the child, the crystalline leader commanded, its voice carrying across the battlefield. Secure the harmony vessel, all other objectives are secondary. They were here for May. Just as Kira had feared. Naruto dispatched his opponents with efficient combinations of creation essence and taijutsu, then searched for Kira. Finding her engaged with multiple architects, he called out, "Where would May be? Where's her home?" Kira glanced toward him, understanding immediately. Northern edge of the village. Blue door with shell decorations. Her parents are Tama and Riku. Naruto nodded, then created a shadow clone to continue assisting in the village while he sprinted toward the northern section. As he ran, he extended his perception, searching for He distinctive signature of another divine authority. Unlike creation or transformation, he had no direct experience with harmony essence, but if Kira was correct about vessels sensing one another, he should be able to detect something. At first, nothing registered beyond the chaos of battle and the terrified energies of fleeing villagers. Then, as he approached a modest home with the blue door Kira had described, he felt a subtle, different ripple in the potential field. Not the assertive presence of creation or the fluid adaptability of transformation, but something more subtle, a gentle essence that seemed to align discordant elements within its influence. Harmony, authority. And it was moving. Not within the house, but away from it, toward the shoreline beyond the village. Changing direction, Naruto raced toward the beach, his enhanced perception guiding him. As he cleared the last buildings, he saw them, a man and woman, presumably Mei's parents, hurrying along the shore with a small figure between them. Pursuing them were three architects, moving with the unnatural speed their crystalline forms provided. Tama, Riku, Naruto called, accelerating to intercept. I'm a friend of Kira's. The couple turned briefly, fear and confusion evident on their faces. The small figure between them, Mei, he presumed, also looked back, and Naruto caught a glimpse of unusual eyes, similar to Kira's in their shifting nature but with patterns rather than colors changing within them. The distraction cost them precious seconds. One of the pursuing architects launched forward with explosive speed, crystalline arm extending like a spear toward the family. Naruto was still too far to physically intercept, and a ranged attack risked hitting the family. Acting on pure instinct, he reached out with creation authority. Not to manifest an object but to create an effect, a localized disruption in the corrupted essence the architect wielded. The golden energy flashed from his extended hand, striking the crystalline form mid-leap. The architect's momentum faltered as their connection to the corrupted essence temporarily destabilized, the crystal structure briefly losing coherence. It was an hour of a delay for Naruto to close the distance, placing himself between the family and their pursuers. Get behind me, he instructed, not taking his eyes off the architects, who had regrouped and now assessed him with cold calculation. The creation vessel, one observed. Unexpected, but not unwelcome. 2 authorities for the price of 1. You're not taking either of us, Naruto stated firmly. Golden red energy gathering around him as he drew on both creation essence and Kurama's chakra. The lead architect tilted its crystalline head, an approximation of curiosity in the gesture. Your authority is impressive, but raw, unrefined. Ours has been cultivated through years of dedicated practice. It gestured to its companions. Take the child, I will handle this one. The 2 subordinate architects moved to circle around Naruto, attempting to flank him and reach the family. Naruto immediately established a creation domain, larger than before but more taxing to maintain, encompassing the entire area between the village buildings and the shoreline. Within this domain, he defined a simple rule: distance remains constant between the family and the architects. No matter how the crystalline figures moved, they could not get closer to Mei and her parents than they currently were, roughly 10 meters. The effect was disorienting to observe. The architects would advance, only to find that despite their physical movement, the distance to their targets remained unchanged, as if they were walking on a treadmill while the scenery remained static. Impossible, one hissed in frustration. He's manipulating spatial relationships. Domain authority, the leader realized, its crystalline features sharpening with interest. Advanced application for one so newly awakened. Kirin will be most intrigued. Naruto ignored the commentary, focusing on maintaining the domain while preparing for direct confrontation. The effort of sustaining the spatial rule was considerable, drawing heavily on his reserves. But it effectively neutralized the immediate threat to Mei while he dealt with the leader. You have 2 choices, he informed the crystalline figure. Retreat now, or face purification like your friends in the village. Purification, the architect repeated, a sound like breaking glass emerging from its crystalline form. Laughter, Naruto realized. You think what we've become is corruption to be cleansed. This is evolution, vessel. The next stage of existence. Your guardian has filled your mind with outdated perspectives, archaic notions of cosmic order. Pretty speeches dawn. Justify attacking innocent villagers or trying to kidnap a child, Naruto replied, unimpressed. Whatever you believe about evolution doesn't excuse your methods. Methods necessitated by resistance, the architect countered. We offered partnership, were met with rejection. Offered transcendence, were met with fear. What remains but compulsion when reason fails? The philosophical debate ended, abruptly as the leader launched its attack. Not with physical movement, which would be affected by the domain, but with essence manipulation. Corrupted purple energy gathered around its crystalline form, then shot forward in tendril-like projections, seeking to penetrate Naruto's defenses. Naruto countered with his own essence manipulation, golden energy meeting purple in a clash that sent ripples through the potential field. The corrupted essence sought to unmake, to dissolve the boundaries between actual and potential. Naruto's creation essence reinforced those boundaries, maintaining the integrity of manifested reality. The contest of wills and energies created spectacular visual effects, flashes of gold and purple light, distortions in the air where opposing essences met, occasional saws. Cades of sparks when particularly intense concentrations collided. Behind Naruto, he could hear Mei's parents murmuring in awe and fear, while the child herself remained strangely silent. Despite his recent training, Naruto found himself gradually giving ground. The architect leader's control was refined through years of practice, their corrupted essence flowing in complex patterns that required increasing effort to counter. Maintaining the domain while simultaneously defending against direct essence manipulation taxed even Naruto's substantial reserves. "Let me contribute more," Kurama suggested in his mind. "A fuller synchronization would provide the energy you need." "Might lose control," Naruto replied internally, deflecting another tendril of corruption. "Never tried full synchronization outside of training." "Trust our connection," Kurama insisted. "The seed will help stabilize the flow." Deciding that the risk was necessary, Naruto reached for the seed of inception in its pouch at his waist. The moment his fingers contacted the crystalline sphere, he felt its resonance with both his creation essence and Kurama's chakra, a harmonious alignment of energies that offered new possibilities. Drawing the seed into his palm, Naruto allowed a fuller measure of Kurama's chakra to flow into his creation essence. The golden red energy around him intensified, becoming a swirling aura that reflected the deepening synchronization between human, tailed beast, and divine authority.